All right, so I want to thank you first for being here with us and spending your Monday with us. We're going to talk about Brilliant Brunettes, of course, today. We're going to help re-energize and excite you guys about doing brown hair. It is something that we all do. So in general, I think for the most part, people don't get overly excited about doing brown hair, nor do they feel super inspired to join a class or anything. But really, brown doesn't have to be boring. So we're going to talk a ton about that, ways that you can maintain being excited behind the chair, even though your client just continually asks for a 6036, okay? So first and foremost, if this logo looks new and different to you, it is because we've actually changed our branding a little bit. We used to be known solely as Affinage. Now we're operating under ASP, which stands for Affinage Salon Professional. So all of your packaging will have this on it. You'll start to see that transition happen throughout the year if you haven't started to see things like that already. So that's just a little side note. This is just a reminder to you guys that we are a global-based company. A lot of people say that, oh, we've never heard of Affinage. And to be honest, we are truly the best kept secret. We're in over 60 countries, okay? We have 3 global headquarters. And this is where our footprint is globally. So we expand everywhere from Guatemala to the Czech Republic to Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Australia, of course, all of North America, up in Canada, Hong Kong. So we really do have quite a footprint and an imprint quite well across the entire world. Okay. I want to also bring to your attention, if you guys aren't aware, and this is something that's been super important, has come to the forefront over the past few years. People are always asking us if we're animal cruelty free. Why don't we have that little bunny on our packaging? We are a British born company, and we instead adhere to the DNA Shield, which stands for Defend Nature Always. So this is the program that we take part in. Basically, this states that we do no animal testing. We are more than 90% naturally derived. We use all natural components. We're vegan friendly. We're also gluten friendly. And I want to just bring to your guys' attention too that everything that we do as far as packaging and manufacturing is from 90% renewable and recyclable resources. So this is something that we've done since day one, since 1996 when we started ASP Affinage, but this is something that's been a lot more important to people as of late. So we're just kind of reintroducing the fact that we do all these things as our standard, okay? Our mission statement with Affinage ASP is to use knowledge, research, innovation, and technology to create superior, safe, leading-edge products that inspire passion, creativity, and reassurance for the salon professional. So really, those 3 words, innovate, inspire, and create, is what I hope that you guys are really able to get out of today. And as a whole, this brand certainly has done all of these things for me. So I hope that if you're new to the brand, you feel all of these things already. And if not, and you need to re-energize your passion, I hope that you're able to get some of these key components out of today's class. All right, so Brilliant Brunettes. Like I said, it's something that we do behind the chair all the time, but it's not something we always are super excited to do behind the chair all the times, because oftentimes it's gray coverage clients that are coming in. We're just doing the same thing over and over again. And sometimes your client needs to be inspired, and sometimes you just need to be inspired behind the chair. Is it easy money to put 10 volume and 6036 on my client's route every 4 weeks? Yeah, it's easy, but I'm bored. So these are just some tools that I've kind of put together to share with you guys about what keeps things exciting behind the chair in terms of brunettes. Okay. First of all, we have to understand what the challenges of brunettes are. I have made a list here, which I think to be the most important challenges that I see when doing brown hair. But of course, if you have anything to add to this, go ahead and pipe in, whether you, again, say that verbally or put it into the chat, and that's something we can make sure that we address as well. But basically, this is what we're going to be covering today in terms of brilliant brunettes. Porosity, of course, is super important. Choosing the right product. We do have a really vast range of offerings, all the way from permanent hair color to tone-on-tone demi, all the way to semi-permanent options. And there is a time and a place for all of them. And particularly when you feel bored behind the chair, it's nice to know that we have a multitude of products that can kind of reinvigorate and excite you again, okay? Getting the right tone for brunettes is very important as well. What's going to complement skin tone, eye color, so on and so forth. Tinting back, of course, especially this time of year where we're taking our blondes and we're bringing them back down to more brunette bases. This is important. Gray coverage is king, right? Every single one of us does it. There's not a single hairdresser on the planet that isn't doing gray coverage. So of course that's important. Density of deposit. I get this question a lot when people are talking about brunettes. They're saying, I'm just not liking the coverage I'm seeing, or I feel like I'm getting a little bit of stuff coming through. So density of deposit is great because we're going to be able to talk about different options that you have, whether it be that the level's not right, the depth isn't right, stuff like that. So we're going to kind of explore all that today as well. We're going to talk about lifting from dark levels. For instance, if your guest is a level 2 and she just wants to be a little bit of a lighter brunette, what tools we have available to be able to do something like that. Clients that are seeing red or brassy tones, you hear that all the time. I'm sure you have a client that's a level 4 sitting in the chair saying, oh, I just see all this red in my hair, and we don't see any of that at all. So what we can do in terms of deciphering what they're actually seeing and how we can help with that. And this last bit is just for us, changing the attitude that brown is boring. Okay. Any questions so far, or anyone want to add any other challenges that we think that we should add to that list? Anything in the chat, Court?
No questions in the chat.
Awesome. Very, very good. I just want to remind you guys that if you could just mute yourself as well. If you have a question, please feel free to go ahead and unmute. But right now, if you don't have anything, just make sure that you're muted so we're not all getting background noise. Okay, thanks. Okay, so number 1, achieving even deposit. Here we have a photo of 2 cuticles, two hair strands. On the left, we have a cuticle that's really nice and smooth and intact. Looks like more of like a smooth sheen surface. The right image is definitely a cuticle that's seen some days. It's a little bit compromised. You can see that all of those layers are starting to lift out and it's looking kind of like a pine cone. Okay, so when we're talking about depositing color, which is 90% of the time what we're doing when we're talking about brunette hair, we have to make sure that our canvas is really prepped and primed in order to receive the color really beautifully. We have a lot of tools that can help with this. The first one we're going to talk about today is called Quick Pig. This is an instant pre-pigmentation spray. This is essentially a porosity equalizer, guys. It comes in 3 pigments though, which is really, really great. So you get the option of using a red pigment, an orange pigment, and a yellow. More than anything, like I mentioned, it's going to equalize the porosity more than it's going to provide any kind of tonal assist. Okay, it's super easy to use. You're just going to spray it directly onto dry hair. You don't have to get it soaking wet. It's just like a nice, generous spray. The hair is all the way down. I would consider taking in some horizontal sections, spraying root to end, bringing the next section down, root to end, working it through with a wet tooth comb. Once this is in, it's not that you want it to look wet. You just want it to have a little bit of that assist. There's no development time. You're just going to go ahead and stack your color that you're applying right on top of this product. Okay, this is ideal for when you're doing tint backs, when you're taking someone from blonde down to a brunette, or you're just doing a full color pull through, or you're doing any kind of low lighting. This is also really beneficial as well. The red option is what you're going to use when you're coloring using red, violet, or mahogany tones, or when you're coloring back bases from a level 1 to a level 5. Orange, we're going to use before doing any kind of copper shades or recoloring back to bases 6 to 8. And yellow is going to be used for gold shades when recoloring back to shades 9 to 10. So you guys can see just in terms of where color lives, what, 1 to 5, we're primarily seeing red. So it really makes sense that we've given you this option for these levels. Same thing with orange, primarily living 6 to 8. So we've given you that assist as well. And the same thing for yellow. So this is just a quick option to be able to guarantee you some really equalized porosity. Okay. Next, we have protein additive. This is what I would consider a step up from the Quick Pig options. Okay.
So awesome.
Sorry guys, just to remind you, can you just mute yourself if you're not asking questions, just so that we're not all hearing? Thanks. Okay. Again, protein additive. Like I mentioned, is a step up from Quick Pigs. It's going to be mineral and nutrient rich. This is going to be an additive that you can use with your color or your lightener. You can also use this as a pre-pigmentation, pre-perm option as well beforehand doing any perms. This is going to have keratin, fig, oat, sea kelp, green tea, karate, vitamins A, E, and NMF, which stands for natural moisture factor, which will be able to combine to repair, revitalize, strengthen, and protect the hair from damage during the chemical process. Okay, so that's really the main difference here between Quick Pigs and protein additive. Quick Pigs just equalizing porosity. Protein additive is also going to strengthen and protect the hair during a chemical service, whereas the Quick Pig will not do that. Okay, electron acceptor technology, we'll also find in the Kotoko protein additive. This essentially goes in and halts free radical damage, which essentially goes in and rapidly ages the hair as well as color. Okay, when you're adding it to the color, it will intensify the tone and improve the coverage and longevity. So I really love using this option, especially if I'm doing any kind of low lighting, because I'm going to make sure that I'm going to get really full, nice deposit, equalizing the porosity, but it's also going to intensify the tone of what I'm using. And when that's going on blonde hair, sometimes you need that assistance as well. Again, because it's a porosity equalizer as well, it will go and improve the coverage as well as the longevity. Okay, when you add this to lightener, again, or color, or you're using it as a pre-perm, it actually goes and conditions the hair, evens the porosity, and it will also reduce scalp sensitivity and irritation. So anybody that I have in my chair that complains, or they're asking for a comb so they can, like, you know, poke their head while they're processing, they get a little bit of itchiness during the service or even after the service. It's a really great tool to use because it's going to really help them have a much more comfortable process. Our color is really comfortable to sit on the scalp. We do have a 99% no reaction rate, but everybody's different. So if you have someone that you think could help, have some kind of help with scalp sensitivity, this is going to be a great option for them. This is super
Heather.
easy. Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that
Do you want to, yes. Do you want to explain the difference between Olaplex and the protein additive?
Totally. We're going to get there in the next slide, actually.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right. So super easy to use, guys. This, all you do is if you have 50 grams of unmixed color in your bowl, just one pump. That's it. Okay. Same thing for your lightener. 1 scoop of bleach equals 1 pump of this product. So there's no weighing, there's no measuring, there's no having to bump developer up, elongate processing time, nothing like that. It's just super easy to use. And I want to say, don't get me wrong, but don't count me on this for sure, but I want to say that across the country, this is mostly under $20 price point. So I know where my distributor is with what it costs for this product. It only costs me 13 cents a pump to do this. So this isn't necessarily something you would have to give some kind of add-on to a service for. You absolutely could. I usually just roll it into the cost of my product, but for 13 cents a pump, to give you added, you know, assurance that you're going to get really great deposit and longevity, it's a no-brainer. Okay. So again, the protein additive, step up from Quick Pig, and the fact that it's just going to actually help the hair during the chemical process and protect it from damage. Okay. Vitaplex. So this comes to that question that you had, Court. Okay. Vitaplex, this is like our queen bee of our protein, of our porosity equalizers that we have. Okay. Beyond the fact that it's going to help with porosity, it's going to do a lot of other things for you as well. Essentially what it's going to do is be able to restore the hair back to more of a virgin-like state. Okay. So what Vitaplex is, this is a system that's a Plex system that's been rebooted. So we're a revolutionary biomimetic system that replicates and rebuilds the natural structure of the hair, allowing color and lift without compromising integrity of the hair. Okay. So what the term biomimetic actually means is that we're biologically going in and mimicking the actual hair strand in order to provide strength. Okay. Why is it different? We have a patented technology that's called RAV19 technology. We use the number 19 because there's 19 essential amino acids that live within the hair strand. So what we're doing with our RAV19 technology is going in and effectively repairing those strands and replacing those 19 amino acids in the correct order in which they are found in regular hair. So instead of just going in and doing a protein dump, we're really intelligently going in and filling in the gaps where the gaps live, instead of just kind of putting the gaps in everywhere. Okay, what's different primarily, Vitaplex versus say a product, I'm going to say like Olaplex, okay? A lot of bond systems work with the disulfide bonds of the hair, okay? We choose to work with the amino acid chains of the hair instead. So we reverse all the way back to what it's like being in school when you're first learning about all the bonds and everything. Disulfide bonds run horizontal in the hair shaft, okay? Your amino acid chains run vertical in the hair shaft. So when you're working with a product that primarily addresses the disulfide bonds in the hair, what they do is they're going in and they're essentially putting more rungs in a ladder. So I want you to think about a hair strand like it's a ladder. We have your amino acids on the side. We have your disulfide bonds that stack up like rungs of a ladder, okay? So with other Plex products, they go in and just add in a whole bunch of extra disulfide bonds in order to provide strength to the hair, okay? They don't address the amino acids at all. So why we've chosen with Affinage to use the amino acid chains instead of addressing the disulfide bonds is, if your ladder has 100 rungs in it that are all damaged, and then we come in and we put in 100 other rungs, but we never address the fact that the sideboards that provide the structure for those disulfide bonds are rotting, then it doesn't matter how many disulfide bonds we put in the hair, your supports are rotting, period. So over time, what's going to happen is the hair is still going to break apart because the rungs of the vertical part of that ladder has not been structurally fixed. Okay. So that's what makes us really unique and different, is that we're really focusing on the amino acids and not so much on the disulfide bonds. If you have really strong supports on your side, you don't need 100 rungs all close together in a ladder because you have that strength that's spread out across. Okay. The other thing is Plex type systems. What are we mostly addressing? Elasticity and strength of the hair. Okay. So when we test the elasticity of hair, we're picking up the hair and we're not testing the strength this way, because that's where the disulfide bonds live. We're going and we're taking a strand of hair and we're testing to see what the strength of the hair is when we move it vertically like this. So again, if we're concerned about vertical strength, that's where the amino acid lives. We can't take a strand of hair and pull it side by side like this to see how strong it is. Therefore, the disulfide bonds don't really play a huge role in terms of the longevity with strength in a hair shaft. Okay. So essentially, like I said, Vitaplex is the queen bee of our protein equalizers, of our Plex system. Okay, what it does is protein additive goes in, and think about like when you see a road that has a whole bunch of potholes in it. Protein additive goes in and it's just going to repair those potholes. Okay, so overall, the road is better than it was without having these giant potholes in it, but it's not a smooth, perfect ride. Vitaplex is repaving the entire road. Okay, so that's the difference. Quick pick, not going to do really anything to help with the road. Protein additive is going to go in and fill in the potholes. Vitaplex is going to completely repave that whole entire system. So it's back to like a brand new road, or in this case, back to virgin like hair. Okay, Vitaplex is, additional key benefits of it is that it's like the protein additive. It's going to go in and intensify color, and it's going to boost lift without the need for a stronger developer. So if you guys have not used Vitaplex yet, I really encourage you, particularly with your lighteners, to go in and try it, because what it's going to do is it's going to increase the liftability that you get out of your lightener, and it's going to give you a much cleaner lift. Okay. Same thing with any of your colors. Go ahead and pop that in and see what it does in terms of intensifying color and providing richness. Okay. Vitaplex, like many other Olaplex systems, can be used a bunch of different ways. We can use it as a standalone treatment. Okay. We can use it into our color as a treatment, and we can also use it primarily in our lighteners, which is what Plex systems are mostly used for. Okay. Again, it will repair, strengthen, protect the hair during the color and lightening process. That is very similar, again, to what protein additive will do. Okay. This is just kind of, you know, the big guns here. It's going to strengthen the internal structure of the hair, improving elasticity and preventing breakage. Okay. Reduce cuticle damage, of course. And essentially what we're doing, we're able to get that intensified color deposit and boosted lift by utilizing the O2 process of processing. Okay. Mixing chart, we're not going to go super hot and heavy into this, but if you guys have any questions about this after, we will absolutely address it. Super easy to use. If you're using it in with your color, you're going to see that there's a mix ratio of 10:1. So 10 parts color, 1 part Vitaplex. So if we're working, let's say on short hair and we have 60 milliliters of color, we're going to go ahead and just do 6 milliliters. Okay. If you're using it with lightener, you're going to have a 5:1 ratio. So you'll have 60 milliliters or grams of lightener and 12 milliliters of Vitaplex. If you're using it as a standalone treatment, it's a 10:1 ratio, just like color. Okay, so that will just be Vitaplex step 1 mixed in with water, and that's how you'll do that treatment. Okay, if you're doing color or lightener, you will not have to bump up your processing time. You won't have to change the developer that you want to use. Everything essentially is going to remain exactly the same. You're just adding in this product. Okay, once everything processes, you're going to go ahead and shampoo it out, towel dry, and then apply Vitaplex step 2 onto the hair and let it process for 10 minutes and then heavily rinse. If you're using this as a standalone treatment, there'll be your water, your Vitaplex, that will get mixed in an applicator bottle, applied on freshly cleansed hair, preferably with a Purify shampoo. Towel dry that. Okay, you're not going to rinse out that product. You're just going to put it into the hair and then towel dry. After 3 minutes, go ahead and put on your Vitaplex step 2, let that process an additional 10 minutes, just like you did with your color and your lightener. This can go in your toners, this can go in your lightener, your all over colors, your low lighting. Again, standalone treatment. I primarily do color behind the chair. I think I only have maybe 4 or 5 guests that I see that don't get a color or a lightening service. They're just a haircut. I don't let them leave without getting something on their hair. So a standalone treatment for me is a surefire bet to add a ticket onto my haircut. So I'm upping my ticket charge for sure. And I'm introducing them to a treatment that's going to be really great and wonderful for their hair. Okay. Any questions so far when we're just talking porosity in terms of the difference between Quick Pig, Protein Additive, and Vitaplex? Anything so far?
I don't see anything in the chat.
You're doing good. Okay. I hope that I answered the questions between the difference between the Vitaplex and the Protein Additive. And if I didn't,
Yes.
Please stop me. Okay.
No, I liked your whole analogy with the paved road and everything. That was good.
Thanks. Awesome. All right. So now we're going to talk about choosing the right product. This is what we call our ASP decision tree. So essentially we have one of these charts for each avenue of for instance, styling we do, texture services we do, as well as color services and lightening service options. So just right now, we're going to talk about color. So within our color range, we are offering you guys permanent hair color, color highlighting, which should be found in our Be Red collection or our Be Brown collection, tone on tone color, which would be satin, okay? Semi-permanent, which would be hot shots, also color dynamics. Fashion colors would be infinity metallics. This is new, guys. We actually moved this from being a fashion color into our permanent hair color range, just as an FYI. Okay. Color correction, we also have eraser. So this is just showing you that we have a vast array of different options for you in terms of how you want to color your guest's hair. Okay, choosing the right tone. Color wheel, color wheel, color wheel. If you don't know it, like the back of your hand at this point, the forearm is an excellent place to get a tattoo for easy, quick reference. Otherwise, I would really get familiar with this. I think that a lot of times we learn the color wheel and oftentimes we're not really exactly sure how to apply it on an everyday basis. This is going to be not only super important when you're working on blondes and stuff like that in terms of toning, so on and so forth, but this is huge with brunettes. If you don't fully grasp the color wheel, when a guest comes to you and they say, you know, hey, Heather, I love my hair and everything, it's great, but I feel like I'm seeing a lot of red. And let's say they're at a level 7. I know that there's not red in their hair at a level 7. Okay. I know that what they're seeing instead is some golden reflex that from the sun that's hitting their hair. They're seeing warmth, and that's automatically, for a client standpoint, umbrellaed into the fact that they see red. Any kind of warmth they say, they'll always say red. Okay. So me as a stylist, unless I know how to go in and correct that and neutralize appropriately, they're still going to be as unhappy as they were when they came in. So knowing the color wheel really well will be able to allow you to refine your colors and fine tune them so that they're really specialty and very customized and itemized to your guest specifically. Okay. So we're not going to go into a ton of color theory. All I want to do is talk about the color wheel right now is where things are important in terms of just doing brunette hair. Okay, so here we're going to see it says warm base brunettes. This is going to be anything that falls here, gold, copper, or red. Anything on this side of the color wheel, these will, if the base is this, it will always be a warm base brunette. Okay, over here we see it says cool base brunettes. This is going to be anything that falls from violet ash all the way to green ash. Whoops. Sorry. Okay. So all of these options will provide you cool base brunettes. What's really important as well is to know that our 0.5 series mahogany, a lot of people aren't really sure what that is. That color makes up everything in the color wheel with the exception of the tonality 0.1, which is green. So it's just kind of a menagerie of all these colors together, which creates this beautiful warm based color. Okay. 0.2 series or violet ash. This is going to be what neutralizes gold. Okay. 0.7, which is blue, will neutralize orange, and 0.1 or green ash will neutralize red. Okay, so these are the really important tones that you guys be familiar with when we're talking about brunettes and refining and perfecting them. Okay, warm versus cool brunette. So this is what tonality is going to be best for our guest. Here on the left, you guys are going to see a diagram. All of these are actually all on the same exact level hair. It's just this is a cool based This is a neutral based, and this is a warm based tonality all on the same level. So when we're using cool based tones for brunettes, what cool based brunettes are going to do is actually go in and absorb light. So because they're absorbing light, they're going to appear darker in level. Okay, they will also appear more dense and more opaque, as you guys can easily see the difference here between this cool one and this neutral one. It looks a little bit more dense, it looks more opaque, you're not seeing a ton of reflection out of it, and it also appears almost to be a full level darker. Okay, these cool base tones will really enhance cool based skin tones as well. Okay, they'll complement cool colored eyes for piercing results. For instance, I'm sure you guys can look at this cool color and just think that it would look absolutely beautiful on someone who has porcelain skin and ice blue eyes. It's really going to make those eyes really, really, really pop. Okay, your warm base brunettes, I'm just going to be this one down here, of course. What warm base tone brunettes are going to do is they're going to actually reflect light. So because they reflect light, they will appear a bit lighter in level. Again, as you can say here, all the same level of swatch, it's just a difference of how light is playing on it and reflecting. So because they're actually going to appear lighter in level on their own, they're actually going to appear brighter and less dense, a little bit more reflection. You're gonna see a little bit more natural high and low lights come through, which is gonna kind of almost make it look like almost baby lighted or micro lighted. Okay, these are going to be beautiful to enhance warm toned skin and complement warm eye color, picking up lighter flecks. When I see a color like this, or I see somebody that has those honey brown eyes that have those lighter gold specks, I'm automatically going to go ahead and choose something warm for that guest. So when you're choosing between cool and warm brunettes, it's really important, again, eye color, skin tone, but more importantly, what kind of coverage they're looking for as well. If my guest says to me, I'm looking for a really, really full, dense coverage on my gray, I'm probably not going to go for a warm option. I want to go for more of a cool option that's really going to absorb that light, make it look very dense in color and a little bit heavier on the hair. Okay. Any questions so far? Doing good? All right, I'll keep chugging along. So now we're getting into the portion where we talk about what's the right product and when. Okay. Infinity is our permanent hair color option, if those of you who are not familiar. Okay, this is what our Infinity portfolio looks like. Again, you guys, like I mentioned, you'll see that the metallics has switched over to this area. This is now going to be factored into our toner collection. Okay, we have your Gothics, your B Reds, Intensives, Toners, B Browns, High Lift Series. Okay, so if you're new to Affinage or if you're an existing user to Affinage, some of this information is going to be new information to you, and some of this is going to be an upgrade on old information. Basically, as of this year in February, we launched our new GPS technology, which is a technological advancement to ASP. Okay, we used to have Datum Plus as our technology-based product, and now we've shifted over to GPS technology. So we've made some technological advancements in 2020 to our new product. Packaging will look a little bit different. Your tubes will look a little bit different as well. If you're a new user to us this year, then you don't even know anything was different. Okay. So our next generation of technology is called our GPS technology. So GPS and tech, which is in capitals here, are two different kind of technologies that are blending together and making up this technology, which affords us to do these things that you see here on the left. They're going to increase the viscosity from the old generation of color. So the working texture of the product is a little bit different. It's really beautiful to work with. I don't want to say that our product was ever necessarily runny. I don't think it was, but this has just a really more dreamy kind of creamy consistency, but it still has the spreadability that you're used to with the old Datum Plus technology. GPS technology will also give you greater color intensity. Like I said, with the increased viscosity, it will be easier to apply. It's going to provide you ultimate condition and shine, as if we couldn't have done better with that. We were always unbelievable in terms of shine and condition of the hair, but yet again, we've improved. We're going to give you stable, longer lasting results. There will be essentially no damage to the cuticle. And more importantly, we have even better coverage with this new technology. Okay. More so, we have argan oil and shea butter based products. Again, we're more than 90% naturally derived, renewable and recyclable resources in our packaging as well as our manufacturing. Okay, GPS technology, I'm not going to go super far into this, although every part of me wants to. Okay, but basically what you need to know about GPS technology is all these blue molecules here are oxygen molecules. Our red molecule here is our color molecule. We actually take that color molecule and we surround it with an oil droplet. So the color molecule sits right in that oil droplet, and that kind of floats around. Basically what this does is protect oxidation from happening in the bowl. So typically we take our oxygen molecule and our color molecule, they meet in the bowl with traditional color. You mix them and instantly oxidation starts to happen. You can see the color change in the bowl. You're going to kind of start to see some dark sections of it as you're mixing and applying. That's oxidation doing its job. You'll notice with ASP affinage that you won't see that happen, which is really interesting. And this technology is what allows us to do that. So without having any kind of oxidation happening in the bowl, this affords us a lot of things. We have reduced cuticle damage for one. It allows us to do our gray coverage with 10 volume instead of 20 because those oxygen molecules and those color molecules, they never mixed in the bowl together. They never started to grow in size. So we don't have to use something like 20 volume developer to open up the cuticle of the hair to allow that growing color molecule in. Because our color and our oxygen stayed separate, they stay so tiny that you can just use 10 volume in order to get adequate coverage. Okay. So what happens is as this product goes into the keratin fibers of the hair and it really starts to kind of get into the hair, once it's in the cortex of the hair, what will happen is you'll see this color intermediate molecule, which used to be in the center of the oil droplet. It's going to move to the outer edge of the oil droplet. And then what's going to happen is all these oxygen molecules start to target that oil droplet, and it will look something like this. So the GPS technology allows the oxygen and the color to kind of work like a magnet together. So they come together right on the outside of this oil droplet really efficiently. So what happens is when we hit the keratin fibers of the hair, that's the signal for the oil droplet to scoot out. And then what happens is the color and the oxygen are right next to each other. So processing is happening super efficiently, quickly. Those two are meeting together and they're beginning to oxidize within the cortex of the hair instead of the outside of the cuticle and then the cortex. So that makes us really unique too, is that we actually develop our color from the inside out instead of staining the cuticle and then working into the cortex of the hair. So this new technology, though very similar to datum technology, has just been advanced as well. Okay. So when I'm explaining this to, let's say, a guest or someone who's not a hairdresser, my poor husband who has to listen to my excitement all day, every day, is the fact that GPS technology is essentially working like a GPS system. I'm typing in the address of where I want to go, which is the cortex of the hair, and my GPS is taking me the most direct route. It will always take you the most direct route with the shortest amount of time. It's not going to take you on the scenic Sunday drive route. It's always going to take you the quickest and the most efficient route. So that's what our oxidation process does as well with ASP affinage. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on just the change in the technology? I just hope you guys think it's all super awesome.
Yeah, nothing in the chat, but I do want to encourage if anybody wants to speak up or unmute themselves, please do. We want this to be an interactive experience.
Yeah, thanks, Court. Awesome. Okay, so here's a picture of the Swatch Book. This is the inside of the Swatch Book. If you guys haven't seen the new Swatch Book, what I want to do is just point out some things that are new and different. Where you see the red stars are new collections we have, okay, or new positions on the swatch chart. So before, this collection right here is the OX series. This never actually had its own column in the swatch chart. It was always just notated on the natural section. So I just wanted to notate now that now it actually has its own home here on the swatch chart, okay? Here we have a 0.7 series. This is brand new to affinage. We now have an 8.7, a 7.7, and a 6.7. Again, all new. We never had these colors before. So if you were ever going in and trying to neutralize orange and you needed a blue base level 7, you had to custom blend it with our intensives. Now we have it straight out of the tube ready to go for you. So these have been a game changer. I love them. I know that Courtney loves them. And they're an all over crowd pleaser for us at ASP. Okay, another new collection that we have here is the 0.003 collection. We're going to talk about where that came from as well, but I just wanted to just give you a little heads up that that's a new little column on the Swatch Book. Okay, we want to talk about the number profile real quick. This is really important when doing brunettes because, again, understanding where tonalities fall within our colors is really going to allow you to refine your brunette offerings. So anything that's falling to the left of the decimal point is our level. We all pretty much know that, just wanted to recap, okay? Your first tonality that falls to the right of the decimal point is gonna make up 75% of what that color looks like, and we're calling that our primary tonality, Okay, so in this situation, we know this is a level 6 that has 75% 0.6, which stands for red in this color. So when I look at this color first, I'm seeing that it's a level 6. I'm mostly seeing that it's red in nature. Okay, secondary tonality here will make up 25% of what this color looks like. Okay, and the 0.2, which is violet here, is going to make up 7% of what this color looks like. So really anything past the primary tonality, it's just kind of complementing the primary tonality, or it's just like the edge of the decoration for the primary tonality. So oftentimes it can just tweak a color from being warm based to cool based, so on and so forth. This would change, the fact that a 6.6 could be, if it was just a 6.6, it'd obviously be super red. But if we put a 2 on the end of it, it could cool it down a little bit. But again, it's mostly going to look red. Okay, your color wheel also has moved to this page of the swatch book as well instead of the back page. So really helpful when formulating should you need a quick and easy reference. Okay. All right, filling the hair. We get this question all the time, and I think this is one of my favorite things about what Infinity does. When we talk about filling the hair, taking someone who's really, really blonde and bringing them back, whether we're low lighting or whether we're doing an all over brunette offering, it's really important to know that when we fill the hair, essentially what we're doing is we're re-putting back in all of the tonalities that were removed. So if I have someone who's a level 10 and I want to bring them all the way back down to a level 7, what I have to do is I have to go into the hair and I have to put in yellow to make sure that I put in yellow, orange, yellow, and orange in order to get me down to a level 7. So traditionally with other color brands, what I would have to do is go in with maybe like a 8 copper red or a copper gold option first, let that process, then go put my color in on top of that. Now, what the really frustrating part for me as a colorist was, one, I don't have time to do that many steps. I'm not interested in that at all. And 2, whatever I'm putting on before I put my color on, I don't want to see back after shampoos. Okay, so if they leave a beautiful, nice mattified level 7, I don't want them to shampoo their hair, have some fadage, and come back and see a lot of that, level 8 copper yellow or copper red coming through the hair. Okay, so what's beautiful about affinage is that we are formulated at the natural level where the color lives. Therefore, we don't need to do any kind of filling at all. So for example, if I'm taking someone from that's that level 10 and I'm going all the way down to a level 5, our level 5 is formulated with a more red base. So what happens is when I'm going in and I'm applying that level 5, just say it's a 5.0 or a 5.00 onto blonde hair, I don't have to worry about the yellow, the orange, or the red putting it back in the hair because that natural is already formulated where that natural underlying pigment lives. It's just doing it for me already. So it's saving me an entire step behind the chair that is completely unnecessary. And what's also really great about it is, for instance, if I go in with just a 5.0, okay, I'm not going to see a lot of copper kickback as it fades out or anything because I'm only putting in the tonality that I want to see. Does that make sense? Hope it does. Hope we're getting a lot of thumbs up right now because this is a great thing that ASP Affinage offers. Okay. Developer. Super important that you guys are using our ASP developer. One of the most common questions we get on the tech line is, I'm having trouble with gray coverage. I start to ask them questions. How are you mixing? What are you mixing? What's your ratio? How are you processing? And more times than not, we actually find that our developers are not actually being used. So when you're using a generic or a no-name brand developer, we really can't guarantee the results of our product, okay? Again, because our GPS technology addresses not only the color molecule, but it also addresses the O2 molecule of the hair. The O2, the oxygen part, is found in our developer. So when you're not using our developer, you're not getting the full range of what that technology can offer to you. So it's super important that if you guys aren't currently using our developers, that make the transition over, because in time you will really see a giant difference in how the color performs. Okay, so your developer options, we have 4 variants, 10, 20, 30, and 40. It's a highly stable formula. This is going to, again, guarantee your color performance. It's going to ensure the ease of mixing. It's a cream base that's really going to work with the actual color to provide that viscosity that's essential for getting beautiful results. Okay, it's a sulfate-free developer. It has a low pH, and it comes in 2 sizes. It comes in a liter size, and it also comes in a small 250 milliliter size. Okay, this chart down at the bottom is something that's new with our next generation. In the past, with our old Datum Plus technology, when we were talking about permanent color in terms of liftability, our rules were a little bit more complex than this. We've really simplified this to be a lot easier for you guys. So we're using our 10 volume when we're doing same depth coloring, darkening, or recovering white hair. Okay, so this is primarily what you're using most of the time. Okay, when you're trying to get up to 2 levels of lift, we're using 20 volume. 3 levels of lift, 30 volume. 4 levels of lift, 40 volume. Super easy. However many levels of lift you want is what you're choosing your developer to be. Okay. Converter, if you're not familiar with Converter, this is definitely what we call a hero product within our brand. This is a product that is just done wonders in terms of what we can offer to users. Converter is a unique conversion concept, which basically just by using that developer allows you to convert any of the permanent hair color options that we have to a tone-on-tone effect. Okay, so it turns it into a demi. So instead of having your permanent hair color range and then you have an entire range of demi-permanent options, you can have that just by changing your developer with ASP. Okay, how to use it? It's at a 1:2 ratio. We're never putting it under heat. Okay, it will provide 100% coverage on 50% white hair, which means that if you're going to be able to get a really nice gray blend, if your guest is 100%. If your guest is less than 50% white, you're actually able to achieve 100% coverage. So in times like this with COVID, and we're talking about processing, if your guest has less than 50% white hair, use Converter instead of 10 volume because the process time is shorter. So it actually allows you to get more clients in a day, which I think that people just for some reason automatically use Converter for toning or glazing or refreshing, and they're not realizing that it can really be used as a just color option as well. Okay, what's really important with Converter is that on levels 1 to 5 that you're mixing it in the bowl with your color and you're letting it sit for 5 minutes before application. The purpose of that is that Converter is going in and converting your infinity color, which is permanent, which contains ammonia, into a tone-on-tone option that does not provide liftability, which means that it goes in and it eats the ammonia and dissipates it into the air so that it doesn't go into the hair. Okay, so if you don't allow Converter to sit, you just mix it and apply it right away, you will get liftability on the hair. So it's really important to know levels 1 to 5, mix it, let it sit for 5 minutes before applying to your guest. Levels 6 to 10, you're going to mix it and allow it to sit for 10 minutes before your application. The purpose of that is that our ammonia system within our brand is calibrated. So the lower levels contain less ammonia, the higher levels contain more ammonia. So your levels 6 through 10, the ammonia content is higher. So it takes just a little bit more time for that Converter to go in and do its job. Okay, another really great tip, and I know that Courtney loves this, we've both transitioned to doing all of our toning like this as well, is one of our color rebels over in the UK posted on her Instagram story a really great way to stop liftability. If you guys are finding that on your really fine haired clients, even if your product is sitting for 10 minutes, you're still getting a slight lift. Just go ahead and put your color in the bowl first. So let's say you're doing 10.0 and 10.2. Put your 10.0, your 10.2 in the color first. Do not add developer. Take your brush and mix it. Okay, the ammonia is actually found in the color. It's not found in the developer. So if you go in and you aerate that color a little bit and allow that ammonia to kind of leave before putting the Converter in, it's going to help you reduce any kind of base bumps that you might be getting with your fine haired clients. Once that's, you've mixed that up a little bit, let the air get to it a little bit, go ahead and pop the Converter in then, because then it will do its job to just take out what's remaining instead of relying on the Converter to do all of the dissipation of the ammonia that way. So again, I really only need to do this on my guests that are super fine and say like I've gone and I've highlighted them and now I'm going to tone them and I get that lift or that little bump. Or if I'm doing this even on a brunette who has really fine hair, say that they're a level 5 and I put this on and it's almost finishing like a 6 because it lifted a little bit, that trick really helps. Okay.
Heather.
Yeah.
Sorry, just want to pipe in. We have a couple questions about heat if you want to come back to it after this slide or something. Just why can't you use heat and what happens if you do use heat?
We can talk about that right this moment. Okay. So what's happening with the Converter, guys, is essentially, like I said, it's going in and it's removing the ammonia content from the product. So that has nowhere to go but into the environment, into the air. So when you go ahead and you put a product like this under heat, what happens is all of that dissipating ammonia is now getting blown right back into your guest's face, and it's super uncomfortable. Okay. You guys will know because I'm sure if you've mixed up Converter, it will take you back a little bit. You can smell it for sure. Okay. So putting it under heat is only going to blow that stuff right back down, and it really can lift the hair if you do so. So that's why it really needs to never be used under heat. In addition to that, it liquefies under heat. Okay. So if you've ever done converter and foils and didn't know you couldn't put it underneath heat, and then you look over at your guest and she's just dripping out her foils, that's the reason for it. Okay. Great questions. Natural hair, this is going to process 20 to 25 minutes. That's why I love doing this on guests who are not super, super white. If I have someone who's under 50% white, I can get 100% gray coverage in 20 to 25 minutes instead of processing them under heat or instead of processing them at room temperature. So this is a great option that's going to cut down your time on your guests that are less than 50% white. Okay. If the hair is chemically treated or porous, for instance, if you're using converter as a refresher to hair that's already been colored, that only needs to process for 10 to 15 minutes. If the hair is extremely porous or heavily color treated, bleached, so after for toning, okay, or perming, this is going to sit just 3 to 15 minutes. It's really a visual development. So once you start to see the tonality you like, you're good to go ahead and rinse that off. Okay. Again, it comes into... Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to add, I work right by a college, so I get a lot of girls with virgin hair, which is, you know, uncommon. But so when they do come in and they, you know, they're like, oh, I want to do something crazy different. I'm like, okay, we can do that, but I know it's not going to last forever. So I go in with converter, and, you know, it gives nice, easy grow out. It's really nice to use. So I love converter. I use it literally almost every day.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's such a good point, Courtney. The grow out on converter, when we talk about how it's different to infinity is permanent hair color. So it's really going to go in and leave a very clear line of demarcation. So if I have a guest who, perfect scenario, like Courtney's saying, they're in college, I maybe only see them 3 or 4 times a year, and I don't want them to, you know, be a ball and chain attached to a root grow out. I'm going to go and use converter on them because it's actually going to diffuse the grow out and make it much, much softer and really hide the fact that they need their hair done. Whereas if I go in with 10 volume, you're going to see that line of demarcation a lot more, I don't want to say harshly, but it's just going to be a lot more obvious that they need to have their regrowth done. Okay, so the converter is a lot more forgiving that way. It comes out of the hair beautifully. Again, comes in 2 sizes, 250 milliliter and the liter. Also, this is new packaging. So I love this because all of our developers are white. Converter used to be white, and Satin developer is also white. So I was constantly grabbing, hoping I landed on my converter. And of course, it was usually the last option I picked up because that's the only way that it happens, right? So I absolutely love now that it's just changed to black packaging. So it's a little bit quicker for me behind the chair to mix because I can find it a lot easier. Okay, this is a really important note for you guys that are existing users. This means that you have not become a new user within the year 2020. Okay, so our old shades that used to be the 0.01 series, they are now our natural series. Okay, our old natural series are now called our 0.00 series. And our old 0.00 series have now become that new collection that I pointed out to you guys on the Swatch Book. That's the 0.003 series. So essentially what we did not get rid of any of our naturals. Okay. We just shifted them all to be a bit cooler. That's it. Okay. So our 01s, for instance, if you're using a 501 all the time, like it was your job, like me, I probably order a dozen at a time. Those are now just called 5.0, but it's actually the old formula, the 5.01, with the introduction of the GPS technology. Okay. If you have questions on this that need to go a little bit more in depth, hang on in the chat at the end, and I'll make sure that I can help you with this transition if you need some help. Okay. We talk about gray coverage with brunettes. Okay. We have 2 options for gray coverage that you guys can do now. The old rules, which means that if you were a Datum Plus user, which was, you know, pre-2020, the old rules for gray coverage were the 70% rule was king. Okay. So if the hair was more than 70% white, we dropped a level from our target. So if your guest was aiming for a level 5, we were applying a level 4 and being able to get the result of a level 5 when they had over 70% white hair. If the hair was 70% or less than 70% white, we simply use the target level. So if their goal color was a level 5, we just went in and did a level 5. So again, if the hair was more than 70, drop a level from target. 70 or less, stay on target. Okay. That was always done with a 10 volume at a 1 to 1.5 ratio. With the old rules as well, there was no need to add a natural for gray coverage at all. So if my ideal color was to just be a 5.3, I could go in with just a 5.3. I did not need to add natural for any reason. Okay, as long as I dropped a level if I was over 70% white. Okay. Intense mix is always an option as well. If you guys feel like you need a little bit more dense deposit, you can always move over to a 1-to-1 ratio for some increased coverage. Okay, that's just a preference. 1 to 1.5, you're going to be able to get coverage, and you're going to get a reflective coverage which is kind of what ASP's namesake is that we're not providing shoe polish finish gray coverage. We provide a super, super natural childlike virgin hair coverage, which has natural highs and lows in it. So you'll be able to achieve that finish at a 1 to 1.5 ratio. But if you're looking for something a little bit more dense and increased in coverage, go to that 1-to-1. You're going to see a lot less reflection. Okay. The new rules for gray coverage, this would be with the GPS technology. Okay, so any of the new packaging, you have new rules that you could also use. Gray or white hair coverage, this is going to be super simple. If there is gray or white hair that you need covered, doesn't matter the percentage, it's just if it's there, you're going to add 25% of a natural 0.0 to your mix. Okay, and then we're continuing using 10 volume and a 1 to 1.5 ratio. Okay, does not matter how much gray they have in their hair. If they have 50% gray in their hair or if they have 75%, you still just need to use 25% of the natural in order to get gray coverage. If you're adding 25% of the natural, it's not going to affect the tonal value of whatever you're mixing it with. So even a color like 6.66, super, super red, if I add 25% 0.0 to it, it's still going to look like a 6.66. It's not going to go in and dilute that tonality at all. Once you start going into like 50% of your mix you're adding in natural, you're going to start cutting the intensity of that down, but it's not necessary to do in order to get white hair. So that's only if you're making a choice to lessen the tonality of the 6.66, would you add more than the 25%? Okay, if the hair is extra resistant, you can go ahead and add 25% of the OX series to your mix, okay, with 10 volume at a 1 to 1.5 ratio. What I want to make note of with the OX series, I think that when they first came out, people saw, oh, it's extra gray coverage, and they went buck wild and they put it in every single formulation. And then all we got were calls saying that, oh, it took really dark, it looks really dark. Guys, the OX series was specifically formulated to be used on extra resistant texture of hair. Okay, so if that hair is wiry and coarse and you put it between your finger and you swear that you can feel every single cuticle layer, that's resistant hair. Okay, resistant hair doesn't mean percentage of hair that's white. So your guest can be 100% white but not have resistant hair. Okay, they can be 25% white and have super resistant hair. So when you're picking up that OX series, I want you to really determine whether it's the fabric of the hair that's the issue or it's the percentage of the gray that's the issue. Okay, because those don't fall two in the same. Okay, with the new rules, again, you can still use that intense mix at a 1 to 1 ratio for increased coverage. Okay, so what's really beautiful about Affinage and the way that we've rolled out the GPS technology, the next generation, is that if you loved the way the old rules were working, keep doing that. You don't have to change a single thing. But if you were a user who felt like it was always difficult for you to determine whether the guest was 70% white or 50%, and you felt like that really played into the gray coverage you were getting, this is a much easier option because you don't have to take into consideration what percentage of gray they have. Okay, so you can really interchange these even based on clients if you want to. If you have a client who you just feel like the new rules sit better with, then go ahead and try them. Okay, old tubes and new tubes, our product are intermixable. So if you've got some older tubes of the Infinity and you've got some new tubes, those can still get intermixed, guys. Okay, the biggest thing to remember if you're using the old rules or the new rules is that remember that those tonalities of those naturals have changed. Okay. Any questions on gray coverage? New rules, old rules, the tonal shifts?
Pipe in,
yeah.
About you can't use them combined, right? Like you can't use the new and the old together, but you can use one or the other.
Right. In terms of the rules,
okay.
You can use new and old packaging together. But if you're going to do rules, you got to stick to either fully the new rules or fully the old rules.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Court. All right. Any other questions on gray coverage? We feeling good? I hope we're getting some thumbs up.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, of course.
I've been using 10 volume with gray coverage, and I've been using the equal amount. An example, if I use 40 grams from my formula, I add 40 grams from the tin volume.
Perfect.
So I see, is it the new rules we have to use 1 to 1.5?
No, you have that option. So if you're really, really
Okay.
liking the results that you're getting with a 1-to-1 ratio, just keep doing that.
Okay.
You can absolutely keep doing that. One thing I do want to bring up as well, and this has really been brought to our attention from our research and development person over in Sweden, Anne Helene. She had mentioned that just because of the nature of the world that we're in right now with COVID, people are going either longer between coverage appointments, or they're stretching it out, or because of shutdowns are not able to come in as frequently. So for example, if my guest I did 40 grams of color, 60 grams of developer, or I did 40 grams and 40 grams like your question just was, and they typically come in every 4 weeks, that's great. But if it's COVID world and I'm seeing them every 6 or 7 weeks or 8 weeks, I can't just use 40 grams of color and 40 grams of developer, because now my retouch is wider. So I'm actually using, I need to mix up more product. And a lot of times we're getting people, especially with COVID, saying that they're not getting the great coverage they're used to. But remember guys, if you're mixing at a 1-to-1 ratio, you actually have less working product than what you did when you were working at a 1-to-1.5 ratio. So if I was going in before 1-to-1.5 with 40 grams and then 60 grams of developer, I have 100 grams of working product. If I take that same formula and then I decide I want to provide this client with more increased coverage, and I decide to go to a 40-40 mix, now I only have 80 grams of working product. So what you're going to tend to do is use less product on everywhere in order to try to stretch that color all the way through the head. So if you're going to do a 1-to-1 ratio and you're switching a formula that used to be a 1-to-1.5, make sure that you account for the fact that you need to have the same amount of working product as you were before, because the second you go to 1-to-1, you're going to lessen that amount. So that's just something I wanted to bring up as a side note, because we've been seeing a lot of that lately. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions on gray coverage?
No, Nancy here, but I love that you called it COVID hits, because it's so real.
Yeah.
It's like you just like called a new scenario and it's very normal now. So
yeah, exactly. COVID heads. Isn't that weird? Who thought things that wouldn't be in my dictionary in January and February of 2020? Yep. We all just on the same page. Awesome. So what I want to do now is move you guys over to showing you some models. Okay. So here I have, this is my client, Nicole. Okay. This is what happens when you go on maternity leave. They see somebody else and they get something that's quite interesting. Okay. So Nicole came back to me and was obviously like, Heather, you need to help me out. This does not look like my head. I don't know what happened, but this is not what I'm used to as far as Heather hair. So what I typically use on Nicole is Infinity. Nicole comes to me at 50% gray. Okay, she wants to be darker than this. She's never, ever this light. You can tell that she's obviously desperate for some hydration. By her ends, they look a little hung out dry, to say the least. She needs a really dense root coverage, okay, but she likes dimension at the same time. So all over, she needs to definitely be darker, okay? So Nicole's mixing her root area. I went in with a 4036 because I really like that richness, that kind of dark milk chocolate that color provides, as well as a 4.0. So I did half and half in terms of my mixing, and I did 75 grams of 10 volume, but you'll notice that I did go for a 1-to-1 mix here. Okay. She really likes that dense coverage. So I wanted to really make sure that she had a lot more kind of mattified look at her root area. Okay. Her ends and her mids, you can see it's really kind of yellow orangey. So my mix went in with a 6.24, again, level 6. This is 75% violet, which is really going to help me with the gold portion of what her ends look like. And it has 25% copper in it. And I'll explain why I chose that in a second. And then, so essentially I was trying to make a level 7. So I did half and half, 15 grams, 6.24, 15 grams, 8.24. And through her ends, I did 10 grams of an 8.7, which is that blue base level 8, in order to hush down some of those orange tones. So here with the 2, I'm addressing the yellow orange part of her hair. And here with the 7, I'm addressing the orange part of her hair. So even when I'm formulating, color wheel always in mind. I want you guys, when you're formulating your colors, especially with your brunettes, every single time, I don't know whether you type in your formulas or whether you handwrite them, but I pray to God that you're writing them down, okay? I want you every single time that you guys are putting something on that paper or typing it in, I want you to know exactly why you're choosing that. Okay, so for instance, if I'm explaining this formula back to myself, I'm using a 7.24 because I really want to utilize the fact that it's 75% violet to knock out that yellow part of the yellow orange that I see in her ends. And then I'm definitely going in with the 8.7 using the 0.7, which is blue, to knock out the orange that I see in her ends. Okay, so I have an explanation for everything that I mixed in that color. I don't want you guys just pulling stuff because it feels right. I want you to know why it feels right. Okay, so once you start questioning yourself that way, you're going to become a really more quite advanced colorist. Okay, obviously her ends were thirsty, to say the least. So I went in with Queen Bee Vitaplex. Okay, I chose that instead of Protein Additive or the Quick Pigs because I really needed a big overhaul on her ends. Okay. Awesome. And then processing, I processed her for 45 minutes at room temp. I shampooed, then towel dried her hair, and then went in and applied my Vitaplex step 2 for 10 minutes. And I did a nice heavy rinse. Okay.
I have a question about the
Yes,
formula.
Kimmy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hi. Okay, so I get why you use 6.24 in that formulation. I'm questioning the 4.
Okay, perfect.
Because I already see that gold copper in her hair.
Yep. So if I went in, say I just made a 6.2 and I just made an 8.2, and then I went in with the 8.7, there's so much ash tonality in there that it's really going to absorb a ton of light and make it look almost dank kind of. So anytime you're trying to go in and you're trying to control some warmth, you want to make sure that you're also adding a little bit so that it looks really natural and not really fake. Because typically what would happen was as she would fade out with going in with such heavy ashy tones and not adding any warmth into it, you would see that kind of off color, violety blue kind of start to poke through those overly lightened places as the hair ages. So I would do this actually in my blondes as well. When we're trying to create platinum hair, if you go in just heavy with something that's blue based or something that's violet based and you don't put any bit of warmth in it, it makes it look really drab. It doesn't make it look bright. So I'm utilizing the 0.4 in these two formulations, the 6 and the 8, in order to make the color looks like it just has a little bit of life. Okay, it's still, remember, because of the primary tonality being 75%, and then in this case 100%, I'm still definitely heavy hitting with a lot of ash in that, and it's only 25% of my formula that I'm kicking in just a tad of warmth to make it look alive. So I hope that answers your question.
It
Kim.
did. That totally makes sense. Thank you.
Good.
Heather,
You're welcome. Yeah.
We have a question. Why didn't you use converter on the ends?
I absolutely could have used converter. Really, essentially, I wanted to just process her all at the same time. I didn't want to have to do her root color and then come back to her with only 10 to 15 minutes left to pull the converter through the ends. I wanted to just be able to do the root, do the ends, and let it process all at once. I could have done converter. It's just, that's the thing. You have the beauty of options this way. Okay, cool. All right, so a technique I used on Nicole, okay? What you guys see here is a pinwheel technique. You're gonna see one that says number 1, one that says number 2, and one that says number 3. This pinwheel technique, there's so many varieties of this that you can do. For instance, number 1, you see that the pivot point of it starts at like the ear, and that the sections are thin near the ear, and then they spray out and get wide towards the crown and the round of the head. That's option number 1. Option number 2, which is what I did use on Nicole, starts with a central point at the crown where all of these points are nice and thin towards this area, and then they actually get wide down towards the ear. Option number 3 is almost an M pattern or a zigzag pattern where you alternate back and forth where the wide part is and where the narrow part is, and then the wide part and the narrow part. So it's just an alternating option. So basically I'm showing you guys this option because this is going to allow you to create ultimate bespoke toning and glazing options. This technique will allow you to build in dimension. It'll give you a really natural result on full colors. This is great for brunette tint backs when you're trying to build in, again, dimension, and it's going to provide really subtle tonal splashes. So for instance, with this option with Nicole, I really like the fact that her root is, what I'm creating on her is a really dark root that has some lightness down through the ends. we're at the end of the day, we're all trying to achieve childlike hair. When your guest sits in the chair and they say, oh, Heather, when I was, 10 or when I was 6, when I was young, my hair had these beautiful natural highlights in it and blah, 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 blah. And it just looked so beautiful. And it just kind of got lighter towards the end. There's a lot of times that your client is saying something like that. And we as stylists, our reply is, oh yeah, that's really nice. That must've been so pretty. We're not taking in the fact that they're telling us a very vital piece of information that they liked about the way that their hair was when they were a child. So take that information and use that as, build that into the technique that you choose to do. So in Nicole's case, she's not looking for a color that's shoe polish root to end all the same color. There's nothing natural about a brunette that's the same color at her root as it is all the way through her ends. Again, we're trying to replicate natural hair whenever we're doing coloring for the most part. We definitely have those exciting colors, but for the most part, particularly for brunettes, we're trying to create something that looks and can pass as really, really natural. So a technique like this with a pinwheel is awesome. So for Nicole, I really wanted to give her that darker root that as her hair just kind of graduated towards the end, it just got a little bit lighter through the ends. And as you can tell, based on my root formula versus my end formula, there's not a huge variance in level difference. So it's not going to look like a full ombre per se or anything. It's just going to look really natural and really lived in. Okay. If I wanted a lot more brightness towards her root area and I wanted to lighten that up, I would choose an option like number 1. Number 3 would give me a really great balance of both. Okay, so I'm using this technique a lot of times when I'm toning my blondes too, and maybe I'm going in and I'm doing the number 2 technique and I'm doing something that's violet based at the hairline, and the next one will be a natural or a natural gold. The next sliver will be a violet based again, so that it doesn't just look all one flat kind of color. It has, as they move, a lot of variance in dimension, which makes it look really natural. So this, in terms of application time, I'm not putting this in foil. I'm literally just doing a root retouch all over. I'm stretching it down a little bit with like a wow comb or something to kind of blend it down a bit. And then what I'm doing is, as I'm essentially doing a full color, I'm just taking slivers and just alternating out of my 2 mixtures. Okay. So in this case on Nicole, I did the root color and then that became one of my slivers. And then the 724 with the 8-7 mix became my next sliver, back to root color, back to 8.7 in the 2-4 mix, and I just alternate through each panel. I'm always doing around the face the lighter panels, okay? And I'm just kind of building those 2 colors in together. Any questions on the technique? Yeah.
It's not about the technique, it's backtracking to converter.
Okay.
Can converter not sit for longer while the root processes? So like if you were to put converter on the ends, but you did 10 volume on the roots, can it not sit the same time as the 10 volume?
You could per se, but really it only needs to sit those 10 to 15 minutes because typically the ends are more porous. It's really going to suck it up a lot more. So although it's not an aggressive color and how it develops, it's just color that's depositing that just doesn't need to any longer than that. Okay.
Thank you.
It wouldn't ruin anything by any means. It's really just gives you preference. I also don't process a single guest underneath the dryer. That's just my preference. I find that I get better grade coverage. I have more dependable results that way when I don't have to rely on my client's position underneath heat or the temperature. So for me, I am a heavy converter user because I don't really put a lot of stuff underneath the dryer. But in this particular case with Nicole, where I didn't need a refresh, I really needed a full overhaul. I chose to use 10 volume instead. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Any other questions? We can move on. Cool. So here's Nicole's after. So you guys, again, can see that the before, her ends were super fuzzy. They looked very thirsty, essentially looked like they were reaching out for any hydration they could get in the environment. Her root didn't have that density that she's used to, and she was quite dark everywhere. So here in the center section, you can see that she got her 100% root coverage. And then all the way on this left photo, you can see that she's got these beautiful kind of shimmered, subtle highlights that just kind of get a little bit more dense in through the ends in terms of how much of them there are. And at her root, you can see a lot more of that root color. So it just looks like a very, very natural brunette. Okay, she doesn't have a solid root color from root to end. Okay, we obviously gave her a little bit of haircut because she needed that love, but that Vitaplex, you can really see the difference in how her hair looks in terms of richness and of course the texture of it as well. Okay, so any questions on Nicole's before and after?
Everyone's just saying how beautiful it looks.
Oh, good, good, good. So even like Kimmy, I hope you can see that even though that 0.24 is in there, it didn't make this go rogue and look overly warm at all. It just made it look not matte. It just gave it like
yes,
a really
it looks
balanced.
Beautiful. And
Good.
I have, I'm going to do that on somebody.
Yeah.
I have someone in mind. Thank you.
Excellent. You're welcome. All right, guys, we're on to the next. We feel good? Stop me at any time, Court, okay? If anyone needs it. All right. So next we have Casey. Casey has more hair than anybody needs ever on the planet, but I love working with thick hair, so it's absolutely my pleasure to do. Casey comes to us as a natural level 6 and she has no gray. Again, we're going to feature Infinity on Casey. She's looking for something with more richness. She's ultra low maintenance. This last color I did on her, she was a bop. She had not had her color since she had seen me last, so you can really, really see how low maintenance she is. Okay, her hair was above her shoulders and we had gone and really lightened it up during the summertime, and this is all of her growth since then. Okay, so as low maintenance can get is what Casey requires. She wants it to look really natural and have dimension, and she's looking for a really chocolatey brown. I think it's really important when you guys are doing your consultations with your brunettes, a couple things. Go off Instagram, go off Pinterest. Do not bring your swatch book into the equation in any way, shape, or form. Okay, it's completely unnecessary. It sets them up for super unrealistic expectations, because unless their hair is what our swatches are done on, it's never going to look like that color. Okay, so you need to use your colorist brain instead to build in that color. So find their inspiration from Pinterest and Instagram. The number one thing with brunettes when I'm trying to explain or trying to convey what kind of tonality I'm looking to achieve on a client is I'm using my food words. I'm using things like a fudgy brown or a dark chocolate or a chocolatey brown, milk chocolate. I'm using coffee references. Do you like your hair to like a blonde roast coffee, a latte, macchiato? You know, I'm using words like that because those are words that all of your clients know what that looks like. Okay, so when you say things like a medium ash brunette or medium ash brown, they have no idea what that means. Okay, so really use your food words as your descriptors, and I find that it really helps get a consultation through, making sure that the guest knows what they're getting and that they understand what you're giving as well. Okay, so that chocolatey brown is what she's looking for, and again, she wants that dimension. Okay, so Casey's root mix, I'm going in with a 424. Again, she just wants something that's really kind of simple. I don't need to do a ton on her in terms of neutralizing anything per se. She's a natural, so she's virgin hair up there, so I kind of have my play in terms of what I want to do. Okay, I just happened to, again, choose 10 volume on her, just my preference on this particular guest. I could have done converter as well. I use that in the next model, I believe. Okay, so I did use the standard 1:1.5 mix here for Casey, 424 and a 10 ball. Again, it gives me just enough cool tonality to not reflect light so much at the root area, so it provides that little bit more dense ashy finish, but it have just enough of that 0.4 in there to balance it. Okay. Casey's ends and root mids and ends mix, I went in with just a straight 5.3. with 50 grams and 10 ball of my 75 grams of my 10 ball. Remember that her ends were definitely lightened. So I chose to go in and use the 1 pump of protein additive to just kind of fill in those potholes. Other than the fact that her ends have been lightened that one time, she came to me as a virgin before that last lightening. So her hair really is in quite good shape. So I didn't need to use the Queen Bee, our Vitaplex, okay? So just going in with my 10 volume, 75 grams, 50 grams with my 5.3. You'll notice here, I put my developer in my bowl first, and you can tell by the video that I actually over poured it. So I poured some back into the bottle. People ask me all the time, why do you always put your developer in first? And it's that exact reason. If I put my developer in first and I over mix, I can put it back into the bottle. If I put my color in first, I can't put it back into the tube. So I'm forced to use more working product than what I need just because I can't introduce it back in. So that's just a little tip that works really well for me, is to do my developer first so I don't run into stuff like that. Okay.
Heather, did Casey have gray?
Nope, no gray.
No gray. Okay.
Yeah. We already did that one. Okay, then I did a highlight mix on Casey. So I went in with an 835, which is a gold mahogany. And then I did a 1:1.5 ratio with 20 volume. Again, remember she's natural. So I was able to go in with 20 volume and lift up a little bit. And because I wasn't working on a full 50 grams of mixed product, I did just shy of 1 pump of protein additive. Okay, so 20 volume. She's a level 6, so that's why I'm choosing to do 20. I just need to do 2 levels of lift. Okay, to get me up to that 8. All righty. Forgot to film me putting in the protein additive. That's why I notated it here as well. Okay, so Casey's sectioning, I'm doing a section, a technique on her as well that I like to call ring lights. It's almost like you guys all know what a ring light looks like. It's circular, okay? And it has light just on the edges of it. The center of it doesn't have any light because it's a ring. So that's why I chose to call it ring lights technique. This is gonna be 2 large sections that we're working in. There's a global interior, okay, that you're gonna see here. All here, global interiors is essentially a circle, and then I have it coming to a point at the top, but otherwise it's a circle all the way around. Okay, this way this 2 large section makes it so she has a global interior section. Okay, and then the halo hairline, that's what all of that stuff is, all the way that's left out all the way around is going to be this halo of lightness. Okay, you guys have a lot of flexibility in your sectioning for this. Casey has, like I said, so much hair, and she does a really significant side part here. So if I did a really much skinnier section in through her hairline and I left out a lot more color, you know, here, for instance, if this came a lot closer here, you're not going to be able to see a lot of that lightness around her face just because of the density of the hair that she has. So that's why I took a pretty significant halo type section, but you guys have flexibility in that section. If they have fine hair, you don't have to take a section as wide. Okay, again, things to consider. I notated that here. The haircut, of course, is always important, and the density of the hair as well. So you want to make sure that where you're putting your color makes sense for your haircut. Okay. So here is a head sheet for you of this technique. Again, I call it ring lights. We also call it a Sophia technique. Sometimes we like to put names to these techniques. So here, oops, sorry, I unplugged my headphones right out of my ear. Sorry, friends. Okay, so here the global color is the 5036, okay? And then her mids and ends were the 5.3, okay? Her highlight area, I'm using the 8.35, and in between that highlight, I'm going in and using the 5.3, okay? Awesome, and these are just gonna alternate. So highlight, mids and ends color, highlight, mids and ends color. And then what I'm doing is I'm actually doing a root retouch all here too, so that she doesn't have a highlight that goes all the way to the root. It's just shy of it. So she has a really nice natural grow in. Okay, so this technique will provide soft perimeter highlights that will bring brightness to the face and add dimension through the back as well, because you can see that this technique skates all the way through the back of the hair also. Okay, and it gives you a soft overlay on top. So this global section, once this falls down over this allows this lightness down near the face, but it doesn't have it go all the way to the root. Again, a really nice low maintenance option for your guests that can't maintain a highlight all the time or a root color. Give them that brightness that can just grow, 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 because they have that halo on top that it's not going to scream, hey, I need my roots done. Okay, so this technique, you can do this a couple different ways. You can just take sections of this and alternate the colors, leaving, you know, using no foils or anything, or you can use foils. Totally up to you. I chose to go in and do foil just for the sake of showing you guys the technique so you could see the difference between the different colors. Typically I wouldn't use foil behind the chair because it's just quicker for me to not, but again, just to be able to show you the placement and reinforce that, I chose to for this particular reason. Okay, so the application, I'm doing a global application in her root area, and I'm going to do that all the way root to end. So I'm doing the 4.24 on the root, and then I'm pulling the 5.3 all the way through her mids and her ends in that global interior section. The ring lights section, which is all the stuff around her halo, I'm going to go ahead and apply the root color, and then I'm alternating the highlight and the mids and ends color every other. You guys have flexibility in this too. If you want to do 2 highlights to 1 low light, or you want to do highlight, low light, highlight, go ahead. it is your creative discretion to do that however you want to. In this section as well, instead of, I could have just gone and done her root all over and then sectioned everything out. I absolutely could have, but I was really trying to provide a really big root stretch in through this global section. So it was extra low maintenance. This area, her halo all the way around, I wanted a smaller root so that she got a little bit more longevity out of those highlights. Okay. Processing was 45 minutes once fully applied. Okay. So this just shows you, I'm alternating 8.35 with my 5.3. You see the little root tap goes on first, and then the highlights just alternate. So you can see why I did this in a foil instead of regular open air processing, just so you guys could see more of that structured technique and like that. Okay, and we just worked this all the way around her head. Okay, this would be a really great thing if you were not going to use foils, to use our Color Your Way, which is a color thickener. That way, especially because you're working around the hairline, your working product would be really quite thick, and you'd be able to just kind of lay the colors one on top of each other. They wouldn't bleed into each other, but they also wouldn't get too messy. So that's another great option for that technique. Okay, and here we have Casey's before and after. Okay, you can see that she's got that really nice perimeter highlight, but then throughout the back, she really just becomes more of a really beautiful brunette that has a little bit of dimension in it. You can see that this will grow out really beautifully. Her root area, you see that little bit of depth there, the highlight starts just shy off of it, but that'll grow out really, really nicely and just kind of match her natural as it grows. But again, we're providing her a really natural dimensional look. Okay, it will grow. Her natural is going to just bump right up to that color hair there, and you won't even be able to see a difference in it. Okay, and you can see that. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. So again, all the praises. And secondly, how would you charge for something like this?
Okay, so you guys have so many options for charging. In this situation, I'm charging a full color, and I'm charging a creative foiling technique. Okay. And then of course she got her hair cut and styled as well. So you guys, the most important thing whenever you're doing your pricing and whenever we talk pricing, what you have to do first is figure out how much your product costs you. Okay. I know all the way down to the gram what my product costs me. So for instance, if I'm doing a thing, a color like this, I'm just throwing numbers out there for ease. But say I know that I did 40 grams, 60 grams of color, and then I know that that cost me $3.12. And then for her mids and ends mix, that product cost me $6.30. And then for the highlight, it cost me $2.50. At the end of the day, my working product might be like $13. I need to make sure that that isn't part of my profit, because that was never mine. Okay, that's all working product. So you want to make sure that the pricing structure that you're using is, what I do is I tend to work off what my hourly rate is. So whatever I charge for a haircut, let's just say it's $50. What I want to make sure is if I'm going to spend 3 hours with this guest, at a minimum, she's being charged $150 because she's going to be charged $50 an hour plus the cost of my working product. Okay, so that's just a scale that's really beneficial to me and has helped me realize how much I was grossly undercharging for my services, because oftentimes I didn't know what my actual product cost me. For example, I have, like I said, all my clients have super thick hair. If I'm doing 60 grams and 120 grams of converter through a client root to end, that cost me $13.89. I never realized it cost me that much money. So when I'm doing it as a glazing service and I'm only charging them $45, you take off that 13 and my hourly rate is not good. Okay. So as far as pricing, it's hard for me to give you an idea because of demographically, we're all so different. The people that are in Hawaii, pricings are going to be way different than they are in Maine. Okay. But try to work off that model. Figure out what your hourly rate is. It's usually your woman's haircut blow dry should be your hourly rate. Okay, if you work off hour increments like that, okay, and then build in your product cost and then go from there, okay? That's just my little 2 cents. Everyone does it very different, okay? Awesome. Any other questions on Casey? Feel cool? All right, cool. So this next slide basically is just a collage of some of our other educators and work that they have done with Brunettes. This is just using Infinity. Okay, So we've got some really dark brunettes in through here. We've got some really dimensional brunettes. We've got some beautiful golden dimensional brunette here. And then here we've got some mahogany tones as well. But I just wanted you guys to see some different images, all the way from cool browns all the way to warm browns, what you can do with the power of infinity color. Okay. Cool. Gothic collection. This is when you guys look at the swatches, they're gray, and you're probably like, why on earth are we talking about this in a brunettes class? Okay. So this is probably one of my absolute favorite tips. I know that Courtney loves this more than anything because she came from a brand that was primarily more of an ashy based color line, a green based color line. So when she switched over to Affinage, this is me just telling your story, Courtney, hope you don't mind. But when she switched over to Affinage, it was more difficult for her to be able to get the density that she was used to seeing in the color that she was using before. So Gothic kind of saved that for her, and it allowed her to take a color line like ASP and allow it to work for her in terms of what kind of coverage she was looking for to match up to what she was presently doing. Okay.
Definitely changed my life.
Didn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah.
It rocks my world. Awesome.
Yes.
So these gray shades, or our Gothic collection, makes up 4 shades. These are going to be deposit only. Okay. These have a 45-minute process time, but if you're mixing it with a base, you can also put that underneath heat as well for a 25-minute process time. Again, no lift, deposit only colors, 1 to 1.5 ratio. Just a little side note, guys, the new tubes have some new features to them. You'll notice here, this is new. Our old color tubes never did this, but here you see what the mixing ratio of the product is right on the tube. So within our infinity range, we have some options like our toners and stuff, which have a different mix ratio. So it's nice to know that if you're having a mind block on what the ratio is, it's all right here. Okay, so again, these are what our Gothic swatches look like. We have a level 10, 9, 6, and 7. Guys, these have no base. So that's how we're able to create gray shades, is because there's no base to these colors. It's just tonality. So in this case, the tonality is a green, green, blue. Okay, again, why am I showing you gray swatches when we're talking about brunettes? The really great part about the Gothic collection is when you mix these with base colors. So for instance, a 6117 and a 6036, it can provide a super, super cool finish to the hair. And when I say cool, I don't necessarily mean like warm tone, cool tone. I just mean like it's cool that it can do that kind of term. So I probably should use a different word. Sorry if that confused anybody. It's not going to make your color cool per se. It's just cool per se. Okay. Awesome. So for instance, this is how I like to explain the Gothic collection and what it can do for your brunettes. Okay. This is my stairwell. Okay. I'm showing you a wall and you guys are all like, what is going on? You'll see that I have a window here, and you can see that these walls are gray and they're painted the same color. Okay. But you can see that the light is coming in and it's bouncing off this section of the wall, and it's really being able to show you truly the purest gray that color is on my wall. Okay. But then this wall that doesn't have light shining on it, that wall is still painted the same exact color, but you can see that the way that light is playing on it makes it appear like a darker gray or a more dense gray, even though when I look at them, I both see that they're the same color and I both see that they're gray. So for example, if I'm using a 6.036 alone, okay, it's going to look more like this part of the wall where I really see all the trueness of the tones that make up that color, and it's going to reflect light really beautifully and again enhance and show that 6036. If I'm going to go in with my 6036 and I'm going to add in Gothic to it, say I'm going in and I'm adding in 6.117, I'm just getting a shadowed version of this same color. So the tonality is exactly the same. There's nothing that's changed. The only difference is that the light is going to play on how that sits in the hair differently. Okay, pure 6036, a lot of light play. The 6036 with Gothic is going to absorb a lot of that light play. So for those guests that say that they're seeing red in their hair, or they don't like the light bouncing off of it, those golden tones, for example, this is a really great option because adding in the Gothic, that green, green, blue pigment, remember that the cool tones absorb light, warm tones reflect light. So this is just a really good visual to explain even to a guest or to a fellow stylist, what the Gothics can do for your formula. So if they say, I love the 6036, I love that beautiful milk chocolate color, I just wish it wasn't so red. This is your fix. Give them that tonality, but squash and shadow the light play on it. Okay. This is another great visual. Okay. These two are done on a level 7 swatch. The left swatch here is a 6036 with 1/4 of the formula 6.117 in it. The right swatch here is just straight 6036. So you're going to see that tonally, they look like the same exact color. But here on the right, you guys can see that the 6036, you can see a little bit more of that warmth coming out. This color here with the Gothic in it, it's still warm. You can see that it's just absorbing the light a little bit more than it's reflecting the light. Okay, does that make sense? I hope it does, because this is like the coolest thing that we can do with our brunettes.
I'm loving the visuals. I think it helps so much. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So again, this is giving you that nice shadow effect. I also love this on my root smudges. Okay. I feel like it looks a little bit more natural on the root area than having a straight 6036 at the root. Typically, if we were trying to mimic natural hair, it wouldn't have that much warmth in through there. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll do just this left swatch formula on the root area. And then if I'm pulling color through the ends, I'll actually omit the 6.117 and just do the 6.036 through the root. So you can see that this would be a root color and this would be the mids and the ends. To your guess, they might not notice a huge difference, but they might say that they don't see as much gold in the hair. Okay, this is also a really great option, even for low lighting. Say you have a guest who's a 6036 and you've been doing that on Sandra for 100 years and you are bored out of your mind. Just go in and low light her with the same formula, just add Gothic into it. And say you do that in the winter, just winterize her a smidge. Again, she might not notice a ton of tonal difference, but when you're in there blow drying her hair for the 100th time, you're actually seeing something that looks a little bit different. And maybe that jazzes you a little bit more, okay? Little extra tip too, the 0.22 series on the Swatch Book, guys, these are going to be on that first page of the Swatch Book all the way to the left, and they're those purple swatches. I'm sure. Could you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
We
Okay,
can hear you now. Yeah, we can.
It suddenly said I got muted, so I was like, oh God, what did I do? So the 0.22 series is on the left side of your Swatch Book. They're those purple swatches, okay? And I'm sure that you've had 100 young girls look at them and say, oh, I want that. I want to be purple, okay? And I'm sure that probably 90% of you guys have done that on that client who's a brunette and thought that you were going to be able to get purple hair, and you're really disappointed when you're not, okay? Remember that our swatches are done on 70% white hair. Okay, so if your guest does not have 70% white hair, it's not going to look like the swatch. Okay, so if your guest has 70% white hair and you do that 6.22 on her, you're going to be able to get purple. Okay, but unless she has that, you can't expect that result. So what's the function and what's the purpose of having a 6.22 and a 4.22 on our Swatch Book if you can't use it on anyone unless they're 70% white? The function is of it, guys. Remember when people are saying, oh, I like my hair, I just wish it wasn't so red. Typically what they're seeing is gold tones. Okay. So when we're going to do our color wheel, what lives opposite gold on the color wheel? Violet. Okay. So if I have someone who wants a really super mattified level 6, I'm going to go in with something like a 6.0, and then I'm going to do like maybe 1/4 or half of the formula 6.22. That 0.22 violet is going to smush out any kind of gold reflection that I get on the hair. So they're going to still look like a really neutral level 6 that doesn't have any gold when they step outside. So that's actually the function of those darker 0.22 options, like the 6 and the 4. Okay, it would provide a very similar result to this. Okay, so you have options here. You can go with Gothics or you can go with the 0.22 series. All right, I hope that that gets you excited to use that. Yeah, Court.
Can you mix Gothics with satin?
I would just mix your satin with satin. So instead what I would do is go in and just add in a little bit of green pigment and then even a little bit less of the 0.7 pigment. You want to keep infinity and infinity, satin and satin, your semi-permanents with your semi-permanents. You don't want to cross blend the families too much that way, okay? Because of ammonia content and stuff like that. All righty. Oops. Okay, any questions on Gothics? I hope you guys can find 100 ways to use them because it's super, super fun. I love it on my reds too. my 0.6 type guests or my 0.4 type guests, like when my bright redheads come in, they want to be winterized for winter time. I'll mix some of the Gothic into their hair so that they don't glow when they go outside. They're still a really nice bright red, but they're not like a stop sign come the winter months. In the summer months, we kick out the 6.117 or any of the 117s, and they can glow outside in the summer all they want. But it's just a fun way to make a slight difference. Okay. All right, your intensives. We're going to go a little bit into this, not a ton into this, but this is also one of my favorite things ever. These are these small 60 milliliters or 2 ounce tubes. Okay. These have 4 warm pigments and 3 cool pigments. Again, 60 milliliter tubes, 90% naturally derived. Okay, here are all the options that you have. I am sure that a lot of you guys have these and have never used these. Don't be afraid. We're going to hopefully take those fears away from you right now. The warm intensives, what they're going to do is add extra color intensity and vibrancy into any shade. Your cool intensives are going to subdue unwanted warm tones for extra cool color results. So say that you're doing a 5.01 and you feel like you need even more coolness in the hair, you can absolutely go in with say a 0.1 and make it even more green based, more blue based, more violet based, whatever you need. Or say you need to make a color like a 5.3, but you don't have it. You can go in with a 5.00 and then add in some of your 0.3 intensive, and you can make that color be a 5.3. So these intensives, when you start incorporating those into your brunettes or really any of your formulations, allow you to create really customized bespoke results.
I love to add a smidge of just 0.3 into like my bright blonde so that it keeps it very bright without it getting too cool.
Yes. And you guys, if you know anything, if you're not familiar with Courtney's work, make sure that you put your Instagram handle in the chat, Courtney, because Courtney does incredible blondes. And tips like, you're welcome. Tips like that, that's kind of like the same tip as the 0.24, even though the base was already kind of warm. Those are the things that are going to really elevate your color to the next level. So you need a little bit of warmth in with your even ashy blondes in order to make it not look dead and dull. Okay. A lot of times blondes will say when you give them a really ashy toner, oh, I feel like I look darker. It's not that they're darker. They're still a level 10 or a level 1000 as far as they're concerned. Okay. But that little bit of gold makes it have brightness. Okay. A couple ways to use the intensives. You have the include technique. This is when you want to lighten or brighten the tone. So what this means is that you're going to take your color, your host color. Okay. Let's just say it's a 6.0. Okay. 30 grams of that. Then we're going to do 30 grams of our 0.3 intensives into the bowl. So it's actually part of your mixture. And then you add in your developer after. So in this case, we're doing 30 grams, which equals 60, 1 to 1.5 ratio will give us 90 grams of developer. So we're including the intensives in the actual color mixture. Okay, this is a note down here that says when you're using the cool intensives with blonde shades in particular, make sure that you add in small quantities up to 10%. Okay, I know that some of you guys, if you're not used to our intensives, you might look at a formula like this and say, holy smokes, that is way too much intensives to put in with something. I want to remind you that our intensives are different in that it's not a direct dye base. So a lot of other color brands use direct dyes, their intensives, which just sit on the cuticle layer of our hair. We actually choose to use pure concentrated unoxidized pigment. So that means that it actually lives in the cortex of the hair and that it actually becomes part of the color, unlike a lot of other competitors where their intensives just live on the cuticle layer of the hair and they fade off quite a bit. So these will actually take on the host color and live in the cortex, which gives prime longevity. The difference in that is direct dyes are super potent and you have to use smaller amounts. So your formulas might have looked like with an existing color line that had a direct dye based mix or additive color shot, whatever you want to call it. Your formulas may say things like a 1-inch ribbon, a pea-sized dot, a dime-sized dot. With us, you really have to use quantity in order for it to make a sustainable difference. So don't be afraid to use half your formula. Don't be afraid to use a quarter of your formula. Even with your cool tones, 10% can seem like a lot if you're used to doing just a pea-sized dot, okay? If you're doing just a pea-sized dot, particularly with brunettes, you might as well do it over the trash can because it's not going to make enough of a difference and then you're just wasting product, okay? So try, I know it's hard and it feels super strange to do it, but use quantity, okay? So that's the include technique. We're using the include technique when we want lighter or brighter results. The intensive mixture goes right into part of the 1 to 1.5 mix. Okay. The next way to use the intensives is the add technique. The add technique we're going to do when we're doing same depth coloring or we're darkening and we're looking for a more intense tone. So how this is going to be different is we're going to take our host color, like we said, let's say it's a 6.0, okay, 30 grams. Then we put our developer in, which is 45 grams. And then after the fact, we go in and we add in our intensives. Okay, so what's happening here is that there's a shift in dye load. Okay, so now we have more color than the 1 to 1.5 ratio, which means we're going to have more density and intense deposit. Okay, so the first option, include, intensives goes in the bowl, then developer, add technique, color goes in, then the intensive goes in without adjusting the quantity of your developer. Okay, so add technique is deeper, darker, intense tones. Okay, this little sheet kind of helps me a bit when we're talking about brunettes. Lighter and brighter, when I'm looking for that, I'll use the include method, which would give me a finished result of like a blonde roast brunette. Deeper and darker would give me more of a dark roast brunette. Okay, what really helps me to remember, okay, which technique do I do when I want something deeper, darker? Which technique do I do when I'm looking for something lighter, brighter? What helps me is that there's a I in light, there's an I in bright, and there's an I in include. Lighter, brighter, include. And then when I can't remember how to use this technique, there's a D in deep, a D in dark, and there's my 2 Ds in add. So I always, in the salon that I used to work in, when any of the girls would ask me about, am I doing add technique or include technique? I would always say lighter, brighter, include, deeper, darker, add, and make sure you match up your I's and your D's. Okay. I hope that helps you guys. Yes.
I think you touched base on it a smidge, but we have a question. What's the average for how much intensity would you add if you were, for example, making like a 5.3? How much 0.3 would you add?
Yep. So if I was going to do a true 5.3, I would go in with a 5.00, 3/4 of my formula. And then I would do 1/4 of my formula 0.3. So that ratio, 3/4 of the natural to 1/4 of the intensive, will give you a color that puts the intensive additive in the primary color spot. Okay. If I did less than 25% of my formula, say I did 10%, it would make the color instead look like a 5.03. Okay, but if I'm trying to make a straight 5.3, 1/4 of the formula will move that intensive into the primary tonal spot. Okay, if you're taking a color like, say you're trying to make a color that is equal parts gold and copper, okay, instead of going in and doing like a 7.43, because a 7.43 is going to give me 75% copper, only 25% gold. But if I want to have exactly half ratios, then what I would do is take a color like 7.4, add in 1/4 of my formula 0.3 intensive, and now the 0.4 and the 0.3 share the same primary spot in terms of quantity. Okay, I hope that helps. I hope that didn't get confusing. If it did, hang on the chat and I'll help you later. Okay, awesome. Any questions on intensives? Don't be afraid to use these guys. These really amp up the game and allow you really great custom results. Okay, B browns. If you're familiar with our B red series, you'll know that they lift through even color treated hair and they deposit all at the same time. This is what your B browns are going to do, which is very, very exciting to be able to have a collection that lifts and deposits at the same time without having to provide a really intense red result. So again, 5 levels of lift in all give you 1-step lift in color, 90% naturally derived, ultra low ammonia at 1.5%. There's 3 shades. It's a 1-to-1 mixed ratio. So this is one of those situations where it's super helpful that this new tab is here on the tubes to remind you that the mixed ratio is different on this particular product. Okay, ultra fast results. You guys can get lift and deposit brown tones in 35 minutes under room temperature. Under gentle heat, it's only going to be 15 minutes. So that is a huge difference in terms of thinking that we used to have to take our level 3s and say we want to bring them up to a level 6. We used to have to pre-lighten them, then rinse that off, then go ahead and tone and let that process and do its whole thing. That's a whole other service. Okay, so now we can do this in as little as 15 minutes under heat, 35 minutes at room temp. Okay, these will be able to give you brilliant brunette results on natural and even on color treated hair, which is incredible. There's no need to pre-lighten. This can be done on scalp, and this is perfect for all dark hair types. If the guest is already light, there's no need to use B brown. The function of this is to take really dark hair, dark brunettes, and bring them to just be lighter brunettes. Okay. People ask all the time what the gray coverage is on these. What I want to remind you of, guys, is gray comes out of the hair and it's essentially a clean canvas. You're not needing to lift anything out of it per se. Okay, you're mostly just going in and depositing color. So if you're looking to take a guest who's a 4 and she wants to be a 6 and she has an inch of grow out, do regular infinity on her grow out to bring her to a 6, because you don't have to lift through anything, and that is a prime clean canvas already. The only thing you need to address in terms of liftability is what her old mids and ends are. So that's where you need lift. So really know where you need lift and where you need deposit, okay? These are your 3 shade offerings. We have B8, B6, and B4. The B just stands for the fact that it's a B brown series, and the number after it dictates what level it will end at. So the B8 is going to give you the highest level of brunette, B6 mid-range, and B4 is the darker of the options. When you're choosing your developer, please keep in mind that this entire collection is for bases 6 or below. So if you're working on a base 5 or a 6, you're just going to simply use 10 volume at a 1-to-1 ratio. If you're at a base 5 or 4, you can use 20, base 1 to 4, 30, and 40 volume is going to be used for maximum lightening on stubborn hair. Guys, I've never had to do this. Okay. End goal, you want to keep your developer low so you retain that structure of the cuticle to its highest level so that you keep that color in looking beautiful. Okay, so this is something that I really, it's hard to remember this, what developer to use when. So what I also want to bring up, guys, on the boxes themselves, you're going to see a QR code. If you take your phone, if you have an iPhone, flip onto the camera function and just hover over that QR code. What it's going to do is it's going to actually bring up the pages of the tech manual that are relevant to the product that you scanned. So when you do that using the B Brown series, it's going to bring up this stuff. It's going to bring up this first page that gives you the info sheet on the product itself, and then it's going to bring up the relevant pages of the tech manual. So if you don't know how, or you need a refresher on how to use B Brown, just take out the QR codes right on the box. Take the box out, hover it over it with your phone, it'll pop right up. If you're using an iPhone, you can click on that, it's going to open it up for you, and you can actually save that file to your iBooks so that over time, you have the entire tech manual right on your phone. You don't have to go looking for your tech manual, and you don't have to log on to go to our website to find it either. It's just a lot easier for you to find, okay? So here we did B Brown on this model. Her name is April. She's a natural level 5 and she has 0% gray. So what I'm going to use on her is kind of a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to do infinity. We're going to include some of our Gothics in there. We're also going to do B Browns on April. So April's looking for more dimension, wants her hair to appear more full because it is actually, though the photo looks like she has a decent amount of hair, she really does have quite fine hair. So we're trying to do something to make it appear more full. She needs something low maintenance as well. April is a client I've never done before, but she said that essentially she never, ever takes care of her hair. She maybe gets a cut once every year to year and a half. So in that, I don't want to give her something that she's going to walk around looking like she needs help with, okay? And of course, we want to add some more shine. You can see in through here, she's just got some old hair that's just kind of been neglected and it's kind of dull. All right, so April's mixing, I'm going in with a root mix of 5036, 30 grams, and then I'm doing a quarter of my formula, my Gothic collection. So of a quarter of that 40 is 5 and 5, so 5 grams 4.117, 5 grams 6.117 in order to bring me to a level 5. Anytime you're using the Gothics in with your ratios, you want to get as close to the level of the host color you're using as possible. Okay, so I have 40 grams of working product, and then I went in and I did 40 grams of her converter. Again, because she is ultra low maintenance, I wanted her to have a really, really diffused root, and because her hair is a lot more fine than Casey's was, this is truly going to be able to diffuse out of the hair really nicely. Because of the texture of Casey's hair, I could use 10 volume on her and know I'm going to get a more defined result, more diffused grow out on her just because of her true texture. With April being more fine, it was more important to me that I used converter to ensure that that diffusion was nice at the root area. Okay. April's mids and ends, I went in, I omitted the Gothic from my formula because I want that natural reflection through her mids and ends. So I just simply did a 5036 with 30 grams, and then I used my converter at a 1:2 ratio. Okay. Mixing up there. Cool. And that was it. Okay, then I'm using a technique called spotlights on April. This is a super easy technique to do. You're going to see the the tech info on the next slide, but this is what I used for her spotlights, okay, or her highlights. She went in with the B brown. I did B8 with 25 grams because she's a natural level 6. I went in with 20, she's natural level 6. I actually went in with 20 volume just to get a little bit more lighter than a B8. I knew that I'd be able to do that on her hair. I could have essentially gone in with 10 volume as well. I just wouldn't have gone as much liftability, okay? I don't think I played that. There's the 20. Mix it in, 1-to-1 ratio. Okay, and there's the B8. Perfect. Again, this is a little bit thicker consistency because it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So keep that in mind when you're mixing to make sure that you're mixing up enough product because its spreadability isn't going to be as slippy because the mix ratio is a little bit more dense. Okay, so this is the spotlights technique. So this technique, you're taking, again, like a center point on the top of the hair, and you're making these triangles that are quite long. And you can see that they vary in size a little bit. You've got some that are smaller, some that are a little bit wider towards the front. This arrow is not supposed to be here. Sorry, guys. This arrow is supposed to be here in this white space, not on that spotlights. My bad. Okay, and then over here, this technique typically doesn't come with money piece foils, but I put them in only because she does wear her hair down all the time. So I just thought it would be a nice addition to this technique. So it's just simply a diagonal foil, diagonal, 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 and then one across the center. And I'm leaving a little bit of natural out, and those are nice weaves. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm doing her root color, and then I'm dragging that through a bit. And then I'm sectioning these sections out after her root color is on because I want them to be rooty in nature so that they're less maintenance for her. And then basically you guys have a lot of creativity. Customize this to the haircut, customize this to how much hair your guest has, and customize this to how they wear their hair a lot. So I love this technique because what it's going to do, it's going to create a spray of color. Where as I get down to the bottom, I'm getting much more of an intense spray. Whereas the pinwheel, it made it look almost more like a kind of like a finely highlighted finish. This is going to give a lot more brightness towards the end, which will be more subtle at the root area, which is really ideal for someone who doesn't want maintenance. Okay, it's going to give you a dramatic fanning kind of color through the mids and ends. This is also a really great option for those of you who aren't super comfortable with balayage or ombre techniques or any kind of freehand anything. You can create a look that looks very similar to that by doing a sectioning option like this. Okay, so the B brown, again, this arrow isn't in the right place either. Sorry, guys. The B brown is going to be what goes inside of these spotlights and the money pieces. Okay. All right, so here's our sectioning. So I went in and did April's full root color, and then I went in and I took these little tiny triangles, okay, and I did them all different sizes around the head based on where I want the finish to be, okay. Now we're coming around to the face. I got a nice one over the ear so that this stuff, when you look at it, it's going to be not very dense at the root area, but as her hair lays down, because that triangle is getting wider, you're going to see she's going to have this really beautiful fan of color right around her face. Okay. And then this is what that finished technique will look like. I took the spotlights and those hairs are twisted, so I know the difference between them. Okay. So she's, again, it's kind of like a pinwheel. You can just be really creative with where your sectioning goes. And then of course her money pieces are right there in the front. Okay, the things you need to consider with this technique are the width and the length of the spotlights. The longer the spotlights, the more fanning, the more width at the bottom towards the hairline, the more fanning you're going to get as well. If those spotlights are much finer towards the bottom, it's going to be a much more subtle look. What you really need to do is take into account where the color will begin and end when it's actually finished and down. So really kind of visualize when you're taking these sections where that color will lay. Okay, take into account the rounds of the head. For instance, the round of her head back here, you know, not quite yet. We're going to move on. Like this guy right here. This is on the round of her head, that transition spot from the front of her hair to the back of her hair. Okay, again, that's not a transition spot, so it's a little thinner. This one's a little thicker because it's a transition spot, so I want a lot of spray. Okay, and of course, you want to also keep in mind the density through the mids and the ends of the color, as well as her haircut, which I already mentioned. Okay, so here we have April's before and after. So the spotlight techniques gives you some pieces that look like they go all the way up to the root, and then they really fan out and give you a much more lighter, more dense variation of color in through here, but it gives a much more subtle result as far as the highlight up here. And what's going to be nice is these can just grow out, and she's going to have this really nice fruity overlay where you're not really going to be able to see where the color starts or ends. Okay, but of course we brought in a lot more dimension to her hair, a lot more fun and playfulness into it, but again, ultra low maintenance. Okay, any questions on placement? Any questions on formula, on April? Feeling good? Okay.
Very, very beautiful.
Very good. All right, cool, guys. We can always back up if we need to. This is another just really brief collage on what B Brown series can do for you. Okay, we have everything from a really beautiful light level 8 on a guest who was previously this more mahogany color you can see in through here, just for like a nice summer look that isn't too overly highlighted. Nice subtle results here. And then of course, this is a nice overlay that Kristen Burley did on her client here with dark ends. I believe she used the B8 on her. Then here we use the B6 on this client. I actually popped just a smidge of 0.6 intensive into it so I could get a really beautiful, really ultra warm mahogany B brown into that. You can definitely put your intensives in your B browns as well, which gives you a lot more options in terms of what you can get out of the B Brown series. All right.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, Kimmy.
About that, the one that you're talking about, this mahogany.
Yes, this one.
Yeah. Okay, so the B Brown formula that you pulled through. So you pulled through over color.
Yes, over color treated hair. Okay,
and is that like a level 4?
Yeah. So this client, Brianna, you can see these dark sections of hair she has here. She is typically a 4.53 with half of the formula 3.352. So she's like no gray, but she's like a 3.5-ish, really quite warm, even though it was very dark. So going in with the B6, and I added just a pinch of that red because I really wanted it to remain a really warm based color. So that's how I'm able to take a B brown, which would usually provide a really neutral kind of more natural result. And I kicked it up to give me a little bit more of a tonal change.
What if I wanted to cool it out a little bit?
You could do the blue, would be a really good option. Yep, you could absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, use those intensives. Don't be afraid to use them.
And what volume did you use?
On Brianna, she was a 3.4. So I want to say I did go in with a 30 because I actually do her root area and her regular 3.3 and 4.53 at a 1-to-1 ratio because her hair is so coarse. I need to get really good density. So I knew that I probably could have used 20 volume on her B Brown formula, but because I pack in so much color at that ratio, I needed a little bit more stronger developer to help get some of that stuff out. She's just got that hair texture that's like a horse's mane. It's just really tough. It's not fun to blow dry or style or anything. So you have to be really aggressive with your color and with her. All right, cool. Any other questions on B Brown, guys? These can also be cocktailed into your regular infinity colors. So say you have a guest that you don't need that much liftability on, you just maybe need like a half shade or so, and say they're a 6036 and they want to be more of a 7036, you can go in with a 7036 and do half of your formula, B Brown, say the B Brown B8, and just do half and half, and it's going to give you just a little bit of lift, not as much liftability as if you would get if you used it alone. So that's also an option for you. Okay, cool. The other option that we have for brunette options is our Kotoko botanical color. Not going to go super far into this because we have a great class coming up on this soon in January with Nancy. So she'll mostly take the reins on this. I just wanted to take a second to introduce this to you guys as an option for your brunette coloring. Kotoko botanical color is an organic, plant-based, ammonia-free, resorcinol-free, vegan-friendly, gluten-free color option. It is as clean gets in terms of coloring. So people that have a lot of allergies to color or anything like that are able to use a product like this. You can actually get 100% gray coverage with the Kotoko Botanicals, and it will last up to 20 washes. Okay, you can get incredible shine and vibrancy with this color option as well. This is really great, like I mentioned, for guests that have ingredient sensitivities or people that are brand new to coloring. Maybe they're not sure how much they want to commit to a color, so doing an option like Botanicals that will fade out in 20 shampoos back to their natural may be a really great intro to them for color. So these colors are going to be pre-blended shades. This is deposit only coloring because it is super, super clean. Remember that it's plant-based. You're not going to have any ammonia in it, so you won't be able to get any lift. It's going to be free from peroxide, resorcinol, PPD, and PTD dyes. Again, we'll provide up to 100% white coverage. They are all intermixable, so all the shades you can customize, and they're going to be between 87 and 100% organic. And these are mixed with just purified water that has been boiled and goes on hot. Okay, this option will allow you to strengthen the hair, will give long-lasting results. It will condition the hair, like I said, vegan friendly. This can also add fullness to the hair. So even on a guest who has really fine hair and she doesn't necessarily need color, if you go in with the crystal clear option we have, you can use that as a treatment per se to give her a little bit more fullness and texture to her hair so that when she styles it, it's much easier. There's absolutely zero damage to this, guys. Essentially, this is metallic free henna. So with that being said, everyone's always like, oh, henna, that's scary. It pigeonholes you into what you can do with color afterwards. This doesn't, because it's metallic free. So all the metallic salts have been removed from it so you can use it really safely, and it's ammonia free. Okay, you have two cool options. This is your bitter chocolate and your peppercorn. These are going to be used for great coverage. Then we have your 9 warm options you see here. Again, these are all custom blended. You can use your crystal clear shade, which is a hero shade. This allows you to dilute any of these kind of tonalities and essentially make them lighter in level. They will not lift, but they'll just pastelize things out. Also works as a great conditioning treatment. These are some of the results that you guys can see with brunette options using the Kotoko Botanical line. We have a kind of nice warm brown here. Nancy Opdahl has done a really beautiful, beautiful warm darker brown here. Kristen Wilden in with a beautiful, again, lighter version of a warm brown, and Nancy again with this beautiful look with those piercing blue eyes. That nice cool base brunette is perfect on that guest. Okay, any questions on Kotoko Botanical color? Again, if you do, we can go into that a lot more after. Hot shots is another option that you guys have. This is a wonderful option when you're refreshing your brunettes, or again, you have a guest who's new to coloring. They've never done it before. They want to test drive color without any kind of commitment. So this is a true semi-permanent. It's going to live just on the cuticle layer of the hair. And what's going to happen is that it's going to last about 6 to 10 shampoos. Every shampoo, it's just going to kind of start to gently buff out of the hair until it's completely gone. This gives you incredible shine and vibrancy, but more than anything, this is the most conditioning product that we have. It is absolutely beautiful. I use this a lot on my back bar if I have a brunette guest who's in just for a root color and I just want to give her a little bit of tonal assist through the end. She doesn't necessarily need a full color pull through, but I just want to give her some enhanced shine and a little bit of pigment help. These can be diluted out with pastelizer. Okay, actually that's on the next slide, so I'll talk about that in a second. Sorry, I got excited. Okay, so great for back bar. You can use this as a color service as well. This has color lock technology, shea butter and argan oil base, so it's ultra hydrating, ammonia and peroxide free, so it's non-committal, super safe. Like I said, will last 6 to 10 shampoos. Comes in a variety of options from your hot chocolate warm browns, your beautiful coppers, a great option quicksilver that's violet based for toning blondes, a cooler brunette option, a sandy blonde option, a bright red chili, and an aubergine. So I use these a lot when I'm even foiling guests. Like if I have a blonde who comes to me and every year Caitlin wants low lights. I know Caitlin doesn't want low lights. I've been doing her hair for 12 years. Every time I put them in, she calls me in 3 days and wants them out. We do this every year. Okay. So what I do with Caitlin now is, you want a little bit of a change? I'll go in and low light in your hair, some iced chestnut into your blonde hair, and it's going to last 6 to 10 shampoos. So by the time you're over it, it's gone and it's out of your hair, and I don't have to go in and remove it. So it's great for that too. If you're transitioning some of your blondes into a brunette place and they just want to kind of test drive it, you guys can go and again, pastelize some of these shades out to make a lighter versions of these brunettes and allow them to try it without commitment. Okay, how we're using this, we're just shampooing the hair, towel drying it, going in with your pastelizer. This actually comes in our Color Dynamics collection, but this allows you to go in and mix it with any of these shades to create more pastelized results. Okay, so if I don't want this much density or this much darkness in my hot chocolate, I can pastelize that out and get a really, really light hot chocolate, which would be great for low lighting and things like that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and work it through the hair, and it's going to process in the hair. Sorry, I spelled process wrong. I went over this 100 times and my eyes just missing it. So 3 to 20 minutes is your process time. The longer it's left on, the more longevity you have. Okay, if you're leaving it on just the 3 minutes, really, really soft, kind of might just come out in 1 to 2 shampoos. Full process time is going to give you the most length in terms of your results. These products can also be retailed. So in a time like COVID, for poor people like Amanda, from our education team, and Nancy, who you guys are out of work right now, and you have color clients that need some help, you guys can, and I'm sure that you do, you retail these Hot Shots options to your clients. If you have a bright red client and she's having color fade, I don't want her to go to the store and get some Manic Panic and take care of it. I want to provide something that I know is safe and I know what it's going to do to her hair. So I can retail these packets out to guests because it's not mixed with anything. You're just using it right out of the tube, and essentially it's just tinted conditioner. So it's a great retail option in times like these as well. As far as gray coverage, 10% gray coverage. So it's not going to take away any of your color business in any way, shape, or form in terms of gray coverage. Okay. Courtney also said that she had a lot of clients that are off at college, as do I. So when they're, they're on the other side of the country for, 6 months because they're at school and they don't want to get their hair cut somewhere else or colored somewhere else, I just go ahead and retail them, their hot chocolate to use as a glaze. And it helps with that. They can take care of that on their own. Okay. I don't know what I did right there. Sorry, guys. I don't know why it's turning red. Okay. So another great retail option, like I mentioned. Okay. Hot Shots. These are just some images. Okay, we have Tracy Devine Smith with a hot shot image here. This is the before and after that I just did last week on a guest. She has really faded ends out from the summer, and we just wanted to try on getting rid of some of those kind of auburny tones. She wasn't sure how much she would like it. So we went in just with the ice chestnut and a little bit of the aubergine, which is a slightly violet base. And I just did her root color as normal and then just pulled through her ends with the Hot Shots and was able to get a really beautiful high shine, high hydrating, as you can see. She didn't have anything else in her hair besides the Hot Shots, and you can really see the difference in terms of how her hair looks and feels. Okay, and over here, another option that I did, diluting out ice chestnut with some of that aubergine, that violety kind of base, to provide nice shine to that guest as well. Okay, any questions on Hot Shots?
We backtracking to botanicals.
Yeah.
Can you highlight with them? I don't know if that means like in a foil or.
Okay, so they're not going to, it's deposit only, so you're not going to be able to get any kind of lift. But if you're looking to do it for low lighting, yeah, you could. You absolutely could. If someone wanted, again, if you had a blonde that wanted to try out low lighting, you could do something like that.
Okay. Perfect.
Awesome. To be honest, the Hot Shots is just an easier option because it would just process alongside your color if you were doing it, or it would be a shorter processing time. The Kotoko processing time is 45 minutes under heat, and it has to go under heat, and it has to be the 45 minutes. So the Hot Shots just might be a easier option for you, but that's always an option for you to use the botanicals as well if your guest is really looking for something that's super, 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 super clean.
Yeah. And then there was another question of what do Hot Shots retail for? And I just said that it's going to be different per region, and probably ask your sales rep.
Totally. The costs across the board in North America, Canada, across the pond, are totally different. So you guys want to make sure that essentially I'm just doubling whatever my cost is, just like I would with a styler. Okay. And what I do too, if I'm giving Hot Shots to somebody, I'm packaging it. If I'm diluting it and I want a guest to do some kind of maintenance on their end at home, I will put them in like those deli containers that have like those lids that lock down really, really nice. And if I'm going to pasteurize that, I'll pasteurize it out, custom blend that formula for them, and then write on top of the lid what the instructions are. And then I put that in a bag with a processing cap, as well as, which is not required for processing. It's just if they're doing it at home, it's easier for them to do that and keep color off things. And then I'm doing a couple of pairs of gloves in there as well because it will stain. So I just set them up with their little kit, and it's got their pre-mixed formula. If I want them to go in with the product straight, then I'm just putting the packet in the bag, and I'm putting instructions on how long I want them to leave it on, how they should do it, AKA shampoo the hair, towel dry first, then go ahead and apply it. And then those gloves and a shampoo cap. So that's how I'm doing that little take-home bag for Hot Shots. All righty. Any other questions on
real
that?
Quick.
Yeah.
I just wanted to announce there will be certificates given at the end of this class if you guys want to just put in your information, your full name, and then Laura will get that back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Court. All right, so this is kind of a wrap up. I'm on creating dimensional brunettes, okay? These are things we're gonna stop doing and things we're gonna start doing. Brown doesn't have to be boring. Stop doing color root to end all the same color. There's nothing natural about it unless your guest is really looking for a super shoe polish finish that just looks mattified root to end, go on and do that. But if you're really trying to create more dimensional, interesting brunette hair that really looks custom to the guest, then what you wanna do is give the green light to start incorporating techniques into your brunette options. I can't tell you how many times we do blonde classes and all people want is technique, and people think you can only use technique on blondes. Okay. All of those techniques that you guys saw today, guys, were actually in our blonding portfolio options, but they can be used for any color hair. So I challenge you to take some of the techniques that you might already know from ASP or from other places. And if you are using them just for blondes, start using them in your brunettes. See the difference that you can get and make your brunettes just look more high value. Okay. And then of course, use your toolbox to create new tonal effects when you're highlighting and you're low lighting. Things like your Brie Brown series, things like your intensives, and of course, things like your Gothic series. Start incorporating some of those things into creating your dimensional brunettes, and you're going to see a huge difference in terms of how beautiful those look. Okay. Home care, we're going to wrap up. This is the last part that we're talking about. Home care, why it's important. Number one, protect your guest investment. They can come in, they might spend $200 on a tint back, shampoo, haircut, blow dry, whatever it might be. And if they're going to go home and use Suave, it's all for nothing. So make sure that your guests understand that home care is part of protecting the investment of their hair. Of course, using quality products will protect against color fade, which means that you will keep your guests happy longer. It's not only important during cleansing and conditioning, but it's also super important during styling, okay? This also, home care is your chance for education. If you guys can educate your guests on your products, you will develop endless, unlimited cash flow, okay? I'm gonna pat myself on the back for a hot second right now, which I don't typically do. It's very uncomfortable for me, but last week I was a retailing monster, and a third of what I brought home last week was an additional third of what my regular take home was just on home care. Okay. So I just made a third extra money that I would have made just for shampoo and conditioner by educating my clients on why it's important. Okay. So then what happens on something like that is every time they come in, they're making that purchase. It's money in your pocket for doing essentially a one-time education on why it's important to them. Okay. Your home care options, we're not going to go into all of them. I just want to touch on Mode Color Care. This is the option for color care, shampoo and conditioner that will be a giant umbrella for all of your clients. It's going to protect against daily color fade. You can use it daily. It's formulated with argan oil and shea butter, panthenol for fullness and texture, and it has natural UV filters in it, which is great. This is going to come in liter sizes, retail sizes, as well as this awesome kit, which is going to be the full size retail options with shampoo, conditioner, as well as a mask. Pretty much most of my clients purchase this in some capacity. I would say 90% of them purchase them in the liters. This stuff is awesome price point. Okay. It is so much more effective for them to purchase liters than it is retail sizes. And it just works on everyone, which makes it so ideal. A lot of times if it's a brand new client and we're doing a color that I know, needs a little help in terms of home care, whether it be reds or anything like that, or it's a tint back, I'll actually roll the cost of this product right into their service so I know they're going home with it. I really can't guarantee any kind of results unless they're using the proper home care. Okay, color care shampoo. Again, this is great for all types. This is what I use on my back bar at my salon. You can use it on fine hair. You can use it on super thick hair and coarse hair, and it's going to work on everybody. It's essentially weightless. So your fine hair clients are still going to be able to blow out and get nice liftability out of their hair. It's not going to weigh it down, but it has enough moisture where someone who has hair like me, which is a lot more coarse in texture and very thick, it will give enough hydration to make it feel beautiful as well. Again, great for all hair types. The bonus to this product is that it has a natural UV filter built into it already, which protects your hair against the sun and the environment, all that kind of stuff. So they don't need to then retail another item that's just works with UV protection. This would be really important for you guys that are in Hawaii, you guys are in Florida, your warmer weather clients, California, where your people tend to be outside a lot more often. Okay, color care conditioner. Again, this is going to not add weight, so it's great for all hair types. It's going to add elasticity, intensify shine. It's going to give silky and smooth, manageable hair. Again, it also has that UV filters in that conditioner, as well as the color lock, advanced color lock technology as well. Comes in those 2 sizes. The color care mask, this is relatively new to the lineup. I want to say it's been about 2 years since we've had this, but this is a deep treatment for color treated hair that has all the same benefits that the regular conditioner does as well. This gets left on for 3 to 5 minutes, and it's just a more intensive boosted hydration version of our regular conditioner. We also have Kotoko range of products. I'm not going to go into this at all other than to just tell you that we have them. This is more of our luxury styling and cleansing and conditioning line. This combines nourishing botanical extracts with unique technology to provide beautiful, healthy looking hair. So mode is great. It's color treated hair. It's going to be safe. UV filters, all that kind of stuff. The Kotoko is more of a specialty prescriptive kind of line that's going to use a lot of botanical extracts as well as technology when cleansing and conditioning the hair. Okay, so those are also options as well. This is actually new to ASP. This came out this year. We have System Blonde Anti-Orange Shampoo and Conditioner. Okay, and then we also have Anti-Yellow. But what's really great about this and why I'm talking about this now is that this is not just for blondes, guys. These, the anti-orange kit, which is a blue-based option, is really great for your brunettes that feel like they tend to get brassy. So if you can get them using this blue-based shampoo and conditioner, of course, the brassy that they're seeing is typically warm tones. Around level 6, 7, they're going to see some of that orange come in. This blue-based shampoo with daily use will really help to kind of squash that reflection so they get that more mattified, opaque kind of finish if they want that. The lighter brunettes, again, you can go in and use that violet-based option as well, even on your brunettes, to squash out some of that reflection. So those are options also. Protection when styling. I'm not going to go into everything. I just wanted to share with you some of my favorites. Dry shampoo, of course, the less your guests can shampoo their hair, the better. Okay, it's going to help color. We have the Mode Revive Me Dry Shampoo, also the Kotoko Style Extend Dry Shampoo. I absolutely love this product. It's formulated with boswellia extract, which is going to help cool the scalp and make it really comfortable for wear. I typically tend to do dry shampoo a couple days in a row, so it helps with any kind of irritation or itchiness. Okay, heat shield is super important. Make sure that you're using something to protect the hair during the heat styling process. We have 2 options. You have Mode Heat Shield as well as the Mode Heat Defy Spray. This will both protect you from blow dryers, flat irons, curling irons up to 428 degrees. If you have not followed myself or some of our other educators on Instagram or Facebook, there was a great video that I had shared maybe 2 weeks or a week ago back of someone taking a piece of toast and spraying heat shields just on one side of that piece of toast, then putting it in the toaster, taking it out, and the whole side that had the heat shield on it looked like a fresh piece of toast. It wasn't even crispy. You could stick your finger in it, and the other side that did not have the heat shield looked like regular toast, just to show you and give your clients the actual visual on what a product like heat shield or heat defy spray can do for their hair. Okay, Mode Dream Cream. This is my absolute go-to when I'm blowing out my brunettes. This has this really beautiful, it's a blow dry cream, but it has this really beautiful illuminating kind of shimmery finish to it. So on your brunettes, it really just pops the light and makes it absolutely beautiful. Also really great on blondes to help give a little bit of reflection since they tend to absorb light. And of course, the best thing of all, Kotoko oil. My life would not be my life without it. It is the absolute best, formulated with NMF factor. It also has vitamin A and E. This goes in the hair wet, will speed up the hair blow drying time up to 30%. You can also put it in the hair dry. It's a clear oil, so it's cold pressed. It's actually molecularly small enough to treat the hair and not just sit on the outside of the hair shaft. I use this as makeup remover as well because it does have that vitamin A and E in it. It will actually do something for my skin other than just be oil on my skin. My husband uses this in his beard as well. It has a very unisex fragrance to it, but it hydrates without having a really false glossy finish to it. And I use this after I shave my legs. It just gives a really nice kind of feel, like a dry oil feel to my legs. Okay. All right, so that sums up this. So this is just a check-in on everything we talked about. We said that the challenges of brunettes was one of them, porosity. We we took care of that problem by using our Quick Picks protein additive in Vitaplex, choosing the right product. We had talked about the decision tree where all your options are there. Getting the right tone, color wheel theory, warm versus cool, tinting back, we formulated at our natural level, so there's no need to fill. Gray coverage, we have our new rules, our old rules, our intense mix, and our gothic, so you have a lot of options for gray coverage. Density of deposit, again, that 1-to-1 mix or the gothic series as well. Lifting from dark levels, we are using our B browns. Clients that are seeing red, we tackled that with our gothics in our 0.22 series. Fading, home care, cleansing, and styling. And viewing the brown as boring. I gave you guys 3 great new techniques, so I hope that that alleviates that problem with brunettes. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but I'm going to go back to it. So if you guys want to take pictures of it or copy any of this stuff down, this is just a couple of bespoke brunette formulas for you that I'm hoping that you guys can take and go home and try. Something that I will go back to this, I promise. Okay, only thing I want to talk about next is our 2021 education. We've just worked on this. We've got some great new classes that are coming to you guys. I mentioned when we were talking about Kotoko Botanicals that we would be having a class with Nancy Opdahl. This will be January 4th, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 Eastern Time. And this will let you explore organic plant-based coloring. There's going to be a class on January 18th at 4 p.m. Pacific time or 7 p.m. Eastern time. So we have an evening class offering that's called the Lightener List. This will be a chance for you guys to learn our lightener portfolio. We have so many options for lightening, and this will allow you to learn when, how, and why to choose each lightener. That'll be with myself. And then January 25th, we have Nancy back. This is a little picture of Nancy. I love it. I stalked you on the internet, Nancy, and I love that picture of you. I think it sums up our cut to color offering perfectly. This will be a class that we do, Nancy will do, called Cut to Color. It will allow you to choose the right color placements to elevate your cutting game. She's a fantastic cutter. If you are not familiar with Nancy, she's just magic. So that will be January 25th, 9 or 12 Eastern Standard Time. What you guys really don't want to miss is that our global ambassador, Tracy Devine Smith, from all the way from the UK, is going to be doing some courses for us here in North America. On January 11th at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern, we have creative coloring and cutting with Tracy. Okay, it's a 3-hour class where she's showing technique, doing coloring and cutting. It's look and learn. And then on February 1st, we have the art of balayage and hand painting with her. This will be 2.5 hours, again, with our global ambassador, Tracy Devine Smith. She has an amazing presence. You guys don't want to miss that at all. And you want to make sure that you register for any of our education, Laura at asphair.com, just like you did today, to make sure that you get in that class. Okay. User spotlight, I wanted to give you guys an image to show you that not only educators can get really great results, we wanted to show you that users that are behind the chair every single day that are not in education are getting amazing results using our products. I have found this one from Brittany McCarthy. She's at Studio Trio Salon in Lindenhurst, New York. She did a beautiful root color and colored between this guest with 7.0 and 7.1 equal parts in converter. And then she glazed all over with 7.4 in converter. Just thought it was a beautiful image to show the dimension and the diversity of what our portfolio can do and show you guys that you too can get really beautiful results like this. Okay, make sure that you follow us, ASP Affinage America on Facebook and at Affinage America on Instagram. The work that you've seen today in this presentation, I've listed the people that have done the work as well as their handles as well. And then I wanted to remind you guys that we are currently doing the 12 days of ASP Christmas. You would want to go over to our Instagram page and check that out. You're going to want to like and comment on each post to get you 1 entry, share on your page for a 2nd entry for all 12 days. This is our education team sharing with you guys some of our favorite products from ASP, and this will go on for all 12 days of Christmas. Be sure to tag ASP Affinage America and stay tuned at the end. We'll have winners receive free ASP products. So that's just kind of some stuff you guys can check out. I really thank all of you for being here and spending your time with me. I'm going to go back to this so you guys can jot down some formulas. If you have any other questions, I'm here and happy to help. I'll leave this screen up for a second and then I'll stop the screen share so I can actually see some of your faces. Okay.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
I mean, this is the greatest class.
Oh, good.
We have so many